And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roger, Atlantic.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange!
Orange 25! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
The methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to NSF's Countdown to Launch as we continue the countdown to Starship's fourth flight, which is hard to believe. As you can see in the corner there, about 65 hours to go. I am Sawyer Rosenstein, and I will be your host for this next hour of Q&A as we get close to launch. But I am not alone. As you see, I am flanked by two of the most awesome co-hosts that I can have here with me. On one side, I have Mr. Adrian Bile. Adrian, how's it going?
That's too high of praise, Sawyer. Thank you so much. I'm also glad to have you as the host for today. And I'm also very glad that we can talk about Starship for the next 60 minutes, because it's certainly, we are in excitement week, potentially. Always noting potentially. But potentially we are just about 60 or so hours away from Starship launching again. So that's good news. I like that.
It still doesn't feel real that this is potentially launch week. And also joining me, Trevor Sesnick. Trevor, how's it going?
I'm good, optimistic that by the end of the week we'll see an empty pad at Starbase and hopefully a successful launch. Like Adrian said, it's kind of crazy that it's here, but we're here to talk about it.
Is what we are here for. And we've got Jake Egan behind the scenes, pushing the buttons, pulling the levers to bring us some of the views that you will see throughout the show today. So, let's start with the big old elephant in the room. Well, Starship is pretty big as is, but if you've noticed, we've heard that Starship is ready to go, but it seems like there's still some tiles missing. Do you think that's intentional at this point? What's the deal with the tiles? I see you shaking your head there, Adrian. I'll let you go first.
It's really an interesting situation, because I feel like if initially we all thought, okay, that means this is not the final stack. I feel like that was the overall impression that was going around. But with now just 60 hours or so away from launch, and them not really in a hurry to open and replace them. But also, if we look at these three tiles, it seems this might be intentional, because they are also very different ways to close that gap, kind of, or like show like like attachment method there. We also have like different ways how they are like kind of secured. So it's I wonder if this is potentially a test to see if like what is the effect of missing a tile? Like, what's the effect if something pierces through that? And I think Alex talked about it yesterday, but it's this whole thing of they are having these three open tiles at the engine skirt section, which means, yes, of course, you don't want to have a breach of the hull there, but at least it's not the tank wall. It's around an area where Raptor vacuum engine would be. So yeah, it's an interesting situation, but this might be actually intentional for launch.
That was kind of my first thought too. The fact that it's so perfectly positioned in that point, and they're so different enough that it might be some kind of entry test on that. Trevor, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I feel like now's kind of not the time to be testing. I mean, it's really confusing because, right, we had Elon's post on X the other day where he was talking about how right now the heat shield in most places is not resilient to them missing any tiles. And he made it sound like this is kind of the biggest problem that they're facing on ship. However, he didn't really expand on that. He said he'll expand on it when he does this Starbase interview with Tim, but unfortunately that hasn't happened yet. So we don't know much about it. I definitely could see them like wanting to figure out, do we need tiles here? But then also, let's be honest, tiles are probably going to fall off during launch. Why wouldn't they, just try to get one through now? And then if they get through re-entry with a whole heat shield, then you can start messing around with removing tiles from certain locations that don't matter as much. But with how close we are to launch, right? Under 65 hours at this point, and they haven't really showed many signs of a destack, right? We've seen the FTS has been installed on both vehicles. We don't know for sure if the pins have been pulled, I believe, but I think following what we saw from launches 1 and launches 2, we can assume that they probably have been. I would say it's very unlikely at this point that we're going to see those tiles be repaired, but it's Starbase. Plans can change quickly. They could probably install those tiles quickly, and they can stack and destack the entire thing very quickly. So it'll be interesting to see.
Really will. And a reminder, if you have any questions, you can tag us at NASASpaceflight, and we'll do our best to answer as many of them as we can over the course of the next hour or so. Let's see here. Kal-El pointing out, do you see the one that was blacked out with paint? It seemed like there was one that was kind of painted over, right?
Yeah, it's some sort, like, of course, it's probably not just paint. It's like maybe like some sort of thermal protection or like adhesive kind of glue. I don't know. Like, I'm not a heat shield engineer, so I don't want to pretend I am one. But I don't doubt it's just like for aesthetics that they are painted one over. I think there's some sort of testing and some sort of like verification that is going on here, and maybe that's just some sort of like protective paint they're putting over there, and see, well, how does that behave? How does that work? Will it survive? But I'm also with Trevor here a bit. It's like it's interesting that it's happening, because I wouldn't have predicted this happening this early. I think this is like they never even got to the point where they got the whole heat shield kind of all the way through, and already like removing tiles intentionally to test it. It's interesting, but it follows this pattern of SpaceX basically does everything like one step earlier than I always thought they would do it. It's like, if I think it happens there, then like you jump a bit earlier, and then you're like, oh, that's where they actually do it.
It really just highlights that the whole point of this program, at least at this point, is data. On each flight, they're maximizing potential data gathering, and this could just be one of those things of, another way that we can collect more data that we'll eventually need is, what if we don't install any tiles? It's interesting. This, Elon's comments on X the other day were really pessimistic about heat shield, and his constant emphasis on the only goal of this flight is to get through peak reheating, and not saying that they're trying to get to that landing burn with ship is definitely interesting. And I think Elon kind of has a little bit of a history of being on the slightly pessimistic side before flights, but it's interesting how big of a problem he is making it seem to be on X.
Yeah, I really think it's kind of this problem that always people thought it might become a bigger and bigger focus, and now we hear, right? Like, now, kind of every single X post that Elon does at this point about Starship is about the heat shield, or it's this generic, hey, by the way, we are ready for launch. But everything else is just like about how this is a really complicated problem. And I mean, that's also what a lot of people from the shuttle background told you. That's a lot of things that people from other programs have said in the past. Like, of all the things Starship has to solve, a truly reusable heat shield will probably be one of the biggest things to solve. So We are seeing that now, and I think going these more radical steps, as for example leaving 3 tiles out to test it, like that makes sense if you're in front of such a enormous problem that you have to, or like a enormous task that you have to work on. Then you go kind of these crazy ways, and it's understandable. I'm curious. Good.
It would be really interesting to ask Elon and be like, what do you think the largest problems of Starship are? Like, what have been the most challenging to overcome? I imagine, one is going to be heat shield. One is going to be a full flow engine that is fully reusable, especially when you have 33 of those, manufacturing them at scale. But yeah, it would definitely be interesting to learn from Elon.
Absolutely.
It really is. And hopefully I'm back from my trip underwater. It was a little wet down there, but should sound better now. The Hivecron is wondering, any idea of what is behind those tiles? Obviously, the engine skirt, but is there anything fancy behind them, or is it just Starship steel?
Yes. It's so Starship doesn't feature like an inner and outer tank wall. Just to like, I think we need to sometimes really point this out. Like, there's no like second or third layer wall behind that. That's just there's the stainless steel wall, and after that there's the Raptor vacuum. There's some cables and some hardware attached to the walls of the engine skirt of the ship. So these would also be affected potentially by that if there would be a burn through. But yeah, basically there's an RVAC engine behind that. So that's pretty much what you would get to if there's an issue at that point.
There you go. Yeah, the tiles are going to be an interesting situation to watch over the next couple of days on Starbase Live, that's for sure. If they go anywhere near it, or if it just is.
Sawyer, I have a question for you as the local shuttle expert, since we always are bringing up shuttle on these streams because it's the only thing that's even kind of come close to what SpaceX is trying to do with Starship's heat shield. So on how many, like, what percentage of the shuttle missions came back with like a perfect heat shield, so there were no tiles missing and no other problems?
I mean, there would always be some tile damage. Doesn't necessarily mean that it would be super severe. I mean, we're talking on a vehicle that had 25 to 30,000 tiles in some instances where you'd have 30 or 40 of them that sustained damage. But the big thing is, A, how severe, and probably more important, where was that tile that was damaged? I mean, STS-27, Chris B and I talk about it often, it had a burn through in one of the worst spots or one of the best spots that it could have happened, and that there happened to be a metal panel right behind where that tile broke down, which basically saved the vehicle from burning up. So it's more about location and luck than the number and the amount of damage.
Sure.
I do want to thank the people here. Oh, go ahead, Adrian. Sorry.
But it's also like, of course, initially you would hit a Raptor vacuum engine, right? That you would not longer need at that point, because when you get re-entry, the only 3 engines that ignite after that are the sea-level Raptors. But you would still probably, and that's probably the thing that SpaceX want to understand here, like, at some point there would be plasma basically entering, like, the whole area, right? So it's not like it would just deflect from that RVAC and then you're kind of through with that problem. So at some point you would get into a situation where there might be like cables, electrics, something in there damaged. So I'm really curious, like, what's their ultimate mission goal here is. And again, and that's one of these things that I would totally love to ask in these kind of, that this would be a thing of, hey, can we have a press conference where I can ask exactly this question and some engineer tells me, yes, this is why? That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be really nice. I mean, there was a different star vehicle that did that the other day, so...
Yeah, the scheduling fun of Starliner and Starship. I think I'm speaking for everybody here at NSF when I say that's a fun scheduling project right now for everybody involved in the team, where we are talking about, hey, there's also Starliner potentially this week, right? Sorry, it's super easy.
Yeah, someone who will be at the Cape again for Starliner, yes. D who's normally at the Cape Forest for Starliner as well right now, currently down at Starbase. In fact, providing us the live views that you see on your screen at this very moment. So shout out to D.
Yeah, I was just about to bring up, I imagine a big question a lot of people have is how are things looking? And my best answer to this is look at the pad right now. There's like no work being done on the vehicle, on really anything. So that's generally a very good sign that SpaceX is just ready to launch this sucker on Thursday. We don't have any updates from the FAA that right there still do not have the launch license modification. The launch license modification is expected early this week. My guess is probably tomorrow or Wednesday. But keep in mind, I think SpaceX is able to start the launch process and go all the way up to like T-minus 40 seconds or something like that before they need that launch license to continue. So not that I think it's likely that they would do that, but it is definitely a possibility. So let's just cross our fingers that comes in time. But at this time, I think it definitely doesn't seem like SpaceX is too worried about it. Hopefully it'll just come here and be ready.
Yeah.
That is the hope. And yeah, we got the word that they're allowed to kind of proceed without fully closing out the mishap investigation since there was no risk to public safety. But it is worth noting again, that does not mean that they have given the go for launch yet from the FAA. So
yes,
everything's still
the FAA
pending regulatory approval.
And also the FAA confirmed at some point that SpaceX has like long ago already applied for this launch license modification. It's just a matter of when every single sub-step is conducted. There's like all of these different things that the FAA has to look at and SpaceX has to look at before such a launch license modification can be issued. And the safety review was just one of these things where an open mishap in theory prevents a return to flight for a vehicle, and the safety review kind of just bypasses the closing of this mishap report by also clearing the vehicle for flight again. But still still no launch license modification, and as long as that's not modified, nothing is flying in Starbase.
That is true. And along those lines, by the way, we were talking about with D being down there and the other star launch, Corvid Moon asking, is IFT-4 likely to be pushed back due to a Starliner delay? I don't think they would, because they're two totally separate ranges, two totally separate vehicles, totally separate companies. I don't think they would delay Starship because of Starliner, unless either of you have other thoughts.
No,
I don't see good.
Yeah, there's nothing related about them. Two different companies, two different ranges. Not like their TFRs or anything would overlap. So I say 0 chance of that happening.
Yeah, there's like multiple hours in theory between them, even if they launch on the same day, and I don't think they have any correlation.
No, they would just do that to spite the person in charge of scheduling all the live streams. Hi, Adrian.
It's, please don't.
I really hope that they don't go the same day, though, just so CFT can have its moment to shine.
Yeah, I would hate a situation where, like, everybody's, like, all talking about Starship and then, like, quietly Starliner launches. I like Starliner. I think it's, like, I want to see that mission fly and get proper coverage, as Trevor said. And like, the moment, like, if it finally gets to the ISS and it finally works, that should be a thing that's nice to see, and like that should be properly covered and then celebrated, and not just overshadowed by a giant steel tank.
That's a good way to put it. I do want to thank some people here. Spambot, before the stream even started, gifting a Red Team membership. Thank you for that. Daniel becoming a Red Team member. Daniel Hogman, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Apocalypse Cow, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Methane Man, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. And Methane Man also tips.nasaspaceflight.com with a $50 tip saying, always need cash for camera maintenance. Isn't that the truth? But thank you so much for the generosity on that. And trust me, that is what it will go towards. We will use it to help keep improving all the cameras and views that we bring to you for these launches. So thank you.
I mean, as we talk right now, there's multiple people for NSF out there preparing cameras, preparing for launch, getting ready. Like, this is happening while we sit here. That's always the crazy thing. There's probably like 5 or 6 people for NSF like running around in Boca right now doing all the different things.
At least, yeah. RS saying, does Sawyer mind anyone of Booger from Revenge of the Nerds? Lol, JK, love you guys. I don't know. We'll see what chat says to that. Ryan here with a good question. Do we think the timeline holds? Trevor, what do you think?
I assume by timeline you mean launch time. So I would say yes. However, so I have a habit of scrubbing launches when I go down to see them, and I'm going. So I'm very, very nervous about that. Which, if you guys are there, by the way, I'll be there. So if you see me, come say hi. But so I'm nervous on that front, but everything, like I was mentioning earlier, is looking good, right? They're not doing any work. We don't have a ton of weather data yet, but from everything I've heard, the weather doesn't seem to be too bad. And in the morning, there shouldn't be any fog or anything like that. Let's cross our fingers, no SN11. So I'm optimistic about it, but it's rocketry. That could change very quickly.
Yeah,
not rocket science.
I was optimistic until the moment I heard that Trevor's going. Trevor managed to scrub 3 Falcon 9 launches that were initially scheduled when he was going to visit in Florida. Like, that's impressive. I think it's not 1, it's 3. So that's making me nervous. And but on a serious note, I think there's a very good chance that pending regulatory arrives in time, like all the pending incentives, there's a very good chance that SpaceX is actually ready to move into propellant loading on Thursday. Everything after that is, I do not want to guess. There could always be a tank farm issue. There could always be one pesky little vent that doesn't work, and then you're already in a slip territory in terms of launch date. So, will they get into propellant loading on Thursday? I really think so. Will they launch? Well, that depends on so many different factors.
And again, I always like to say, even if it doesn't launch, it's a free wet dress rehearsal.
Correct.
Which that goes along with Six String Simpleton asking, is anyone from NSF going to be in Boca for their first Starship launch? So Trevor, I know that's you.
Yeah, I think I may be the only one going for their first from NSF. Actually, has D been to Starship before?
Yes, on the last one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're the only one that goes to the first.
Yeah, but we obviously have a ton of people out there. Jack, I don't want to start naming them because I'm going to forget people and feel bad.
Yeah.
But we'll have a ton of photographers, ton of live stream people down there. So it'll be awesome. And I know Adrian and Kevin have been working hard on the live stream for us. So just make sure you're ready. We'll be starting nice and early as always. Sounds like it'll be awesome.
Yeah, like, totally shout outs to Kevin. I hear Kevin's voice lately a lot, and also Alex's voice. I want to, like, in this discussion always mention Alex because he's also helping with, like, the asset preparation and stuff. And we have heard each other's voices a lot lately. I can tell you. I can tell you that. There has been... we're getting ready for some surprises during the stream, and we hope you enjoy it as always. I think it's going to be some good coverage.
Oh, yeah. Especially that one thing.
Oh, that one thing. And the other thing.
Oh, that one's good too. I think I'll be on stream for that part, so I'm excited.
We are entertainment geniuses with this right now.
That's a word for it.
Taylor's gonna be on? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Disclaimer, Taylor Swift will not be on the IFT4 coverage of NSF. Yes.
Oh, boy. Let's get to some more questions here. Black Shadow asking, what are the key changes in the launch timeline for IFT4, and how might they improve the launch? Adrian, are there any major changes?
Well, propellant loading is about 10% faster, which I think is that's a thing. So gonna add that to that. And then of course we have the hot stage jettison. So after the boost back burn, the hot stage ring will be jettisoned from the top of the booster, which is a change compared to previous flights. And then also, of course, we have the potential for a flip and burn at the end of, like, once the ship goes all the way through re-entry. I, however, would add to that needs a lot of steps before that to go very, very correct to even get to that step. But that's the potential changes we're looking at. It's kind of not really these crazy changes anymore in all the timeline, but I think that's also part of what you would expect from a program that is maturing and a rocket system that is maturing over time, where the changes get like smaller and smaller over time.
All right, and you can see some of that timeline there on the screen, by the way. Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, the other big note is a lot of the on-orbit testing that they did last time, like the propellant transfer demo, the payload bay door opening and closing. It does not seem like they're attempting any of that on this launch. SpaceX has said on its website that it sounds like the propellant transfer test was successful, which is a great sign. It's not entirely clear, what exactly that test had them doing. Right, we know there's a transfer from main tank, from header to main tanks, but aside from that, we don't know much, unfortunately. But it sounds like they're happy enough with at least all of the data they gathered on Flight 3 that they don't wish to repeat it yet. That said, it could be for two reasons. It could be one, that they're really happy with the data, as I was saying, or the second reason could just be they really only want to focus on reentry, and they don't want to have any additional risks to the vehicle on orbit. And that's also probably the reason why we are not seeing them do that in-orbit, deorbit burn demonstration on this flight. So they will not be attempting to relight that sea-level Raptor engine in space. However, as Adrian was mentioning, if they survive re-entry and are in that belly flop configuration, they will be attempting to relight that Raptor engine for a soft splashdown in the Indian Ocean.
And I guess based on the hops, we would expect all three to start up first for the flip and burn, and then they down select to one again, right? Where they first start up 3, and then they do like a health check, basically, and then down select to 2, then 1.
Yep.
And this will be the first time they do it with the Raptor V2s as well, so that'll be interesting to see, assuming we get to that point, that'll be very interesting to see.
Absolutely. I mean, Raptor has kind of the story of very improved, like, in the beginning, Raptor was this, I don't want to say problem child, but it had a bit of a problem with redundancy and with, like, igniting, like how many successful ignitions had versus how many attempted ignitions it had. And, I mean, the last 2 flights, we had 2 flawless booster ignitions. Like, I still think that's a really impressive feat here, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see down the line, like, how they also improve this redundancy, because right now they have this problem of, like, reaching all of this redundancy, I think, in these special conditions with the blockage system, where they only were able to ignite 2 Raptors for the landing burn of the booster. They're kind of now in this situation where they're like, if we have the nominal case, we get Raptor to ignite and to work. Now they get all of these, like, special situations Raptor can be in that they also have to figure out. Which, again, it's a complicated engine, and there are things in there that no other rocket company ever tried. So it's an impressive thing.
Yeah, back in the Starhopper days, they couldn't even ignite a single Raptor engine for those hop tests. They had multiple aborts before getting to that, and now, like you said, 2 launches in a row with 33. The Raptor team's done some good work, so hopefully that also translates over to, since right on the SN15 flight, the only one that landed successfully, unless you count SN10, who cares about that trivial detail. Right, they had Raptor problems on that flight too, and that's why they landed in that off nominal configuration where instead of using the the three engines are kind of in a row, you generally want to land on the two closest to the heat shield. They landed with just one close to the heat shield and then one further back. And that was not intended. That was an abort, not an abort, but that was an off nominal landing situation that they demonstrated on their first landing, which is pretty remarkable. So I'm sure that they've learned a lot from that and made changes to Raptor 2. So hopefully if they get there, they're able to do that successfully.
That's definitely the hope. Excited to see what happens when we get to that point, and definitely hope we get to that point. And did point out, you can see in this view, there's not much going on at the launch pad itself, which seems like a good sign, but that doesn't mean that Starbase is quiet right now. We have actually been seeing some venting happening over at Masseys, and you can see there a live look at Masseys, so things still continuing to happen ahead of this flight, even for other missions.
Yeah, and this could be interesting because this is Ship 26, which features engines. I have to name it. So we are in a situation where this might perform even engine testing. We'll see. But in theory, Ship 26 is on a stand and outfitted to perform some sort of engine testing. So just pointing this out, this could be an interesting test.
Kevin asking if I could even say the ship name. I cannot, no. I shall not.
The ship that shall not be named.
There we go. That's what I'll call it. Oh, boy. Some more support that's come in. Indulus saying maybe SpaceX has invented and is testing some chemical paint that is very resistant to heat. If you compare a couple layers of paint or heat shield, it would be a very big leap. Mind blow emoji. I guess that's kind of what we were talking about before. It's a potential that it might be something that they're testing.
Yeah. We just don't know yet.
I think that's quite unlikely though, right? There's only so much energy that can be stored per unit volume, and you kind of need that little bit thicker of a tile, and I don't know, I don't really see that ever being physically possible. But I'm also not a materials engineer, so...
You just play one on
these tiles are like... I think that's one of the most impressive things these tiles always have, right? They have a surprisingly large volume for their weight. They're so light. It's like, I always get so, like, I'm always surprised by the fact how light they were, and I bet the same... I mean, Sawyer can probably answer that question if it's the same for a shuttle tile. But I would imagine it is the same.
I have one, yes. It is very light.
Yeah.
It's also cool how, right, there are videos of the shuttle tires where it's like glowing hot and you can like pick it up with your hands because it's just not that thermally conductive.
Yeah, I mean, the shuttle was a lot of just silica fibers. So most of it was airy. And it's the same kind of thing, I believe, with the tough rock. Just slightly different materials. But same concept.
It almost
super light, but super heat resistant with some air gaps intentionally.
It's almost like foam, but like static. It's like, basically, if you shape foam into a form, almost that's how it feels, right? Like, it's weird.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. RC Horseman saying, parked on the beach looking at Starship. It's amazing. I'm jealous. I will say I'm jealous of that. Stabby Unicorn with the $100 tip. Holy cow. Not Apocalypse Cow, sorry. Stabby Unicorn. Holy unicorn. Saying, any uninteresting facts? See this question come up quite a bit, but let's see. Today's uninteresting fact. The press briefing room at the Kennedy Space Center only holds about 80 people max. What do you guys got?
My uninteresting fact for today is that my nano leaf stopped working. You can see it in the Starbase update even. They no longer change colors. And they're barely 6 months old. So that's my uninteresting and annoyed fact.
Trevor?
I am too interesting of a person for an uninteresting fact. I don't know. I went wakeboarding this morning. That was fun.
That sounds fun.
There you go.
It was easier than I expected, but
This was the first time you had the chance to bring up math.
that's interesting.
Let's keep it that way. I'm kidding. Hamster Space Nerd 3000 saying, okay, I may need the Danger Van shirt, even though it isn't in the store anymore unless I just can't find it. Anyway, here's some coffee in advance. Thank you. We certainly appreciate it. And there's still some cool merch at shops.nasaspaceflight.com. Don't you worry. You can just ask Ian, who got a bunch of items saying, great job, NSF, go Starship, go Starliner, and sorry for making Adrian hold his head in his hands at the Leicester meetup. I'm sure there's a story behind that.
I want to make sure we're seeing this breaking news, by the way, that we just got from Christian Davenport. Sorry, we do not want to miss this. Bearing any last-minute changes from SpaceX that the FAA would have to approve, the license should be ready for Starship's 4th launch attempt on Thursday, he is told. So Christian Davenport always has the tea with this, so very, very good.
That's what we like to hear.
So that means, like, any changes, as he mentions, and the fact that Elon also said on X that Starship is ready, that we are on Thursday?
That's what we're hoping. That is definitely the plan.
So, that's good news. I like this news. Thank you, Christian Davenport.
Oh, yeah. And then Jason, also one more item from the store saying, let's go Flight 4. Yes, indeed. So here's a question from Khaled, and they're talking about the hot stage ring now that we know that it's going to be jettisoned. Do we know how it will be jettisoned? Is it pushers, explosive bolts? Adrian, do we know?
Good question. I still think it will just be released. I still think it will use because it's right after the boost back, right? So right after the boost back means that's the moment where the booster will start a flip to orient itself engine first. That's how the profile works. So what I think is happening, that they basically release it during this flip, because thanks to the weight difference between the booster and the hot stage ring, and how I understand at least physics, that would mean if you release it there, the ring just basically goes like off. Kind of like in the flip and then whee.
It's like how the Starlink satellites are deployed, where you have this different angular momentum, and that causes them to just kind of slowly float away and then slowly space out. But of course, here you have gravity, or you're not in quite as nice of an environment, so you need a bit harsher of a force. But that's my guess too, because it's just the same mechanism between the hot staging ring and the booster as it is between the booster and the hot staging ring. So you just deploy those latches, and then, like Adrian said, probably during the flip, and then it goes, woo, bye-bye.
Of the sound effects that Trevor and I added to this to make sure, like, the movement of the hot staging ring flying away in space is, like, properly underlined.
Yes. And that's exactly what it's going to sound like on stream, just woo.
Yeah, like some very smart engineers going to be on air and, like, we can confirm woo.
We can confirm woo. I like it. Here's one from Comrade, who asks, when do you think Starship will make its first fully orbital flight? Because once again, we're seeing another suborbital trajectory, and in fact, no deorbit burn at all for this flight. Trevor, what do you think?
My guess is not until Starship V2, and I believe we have at least, so we know we have 3 more Starship V1s. It's possible that there are 4, and we're not sure how many of those will be flown, right? It's entirely possible that after this flight, SpaceX is like, we've learned all we can from Starship V1, let's just move on to the 2nd generation vehicle. But it definitely seems like there's something about this design that SpaceX is not super happy with, and therefore doesn't want to put it in orbit.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's also the concern of making sure that they can actually deorbit in the event that something were to go wrong with some of the engines.
Yeah, I see these remaining V1s almost like options basically they can take based on how many times they want to demonstrate certain things before moving to V2. But I also think at this point I'm of the opinion that there's a very high likelihood that they will not fly every single V1. I think there's a good chance that if, for example, if this flight goes all the way to splashdown, then the next flight can maybe demonstrate like some sort of booster catch, like get like that into demonstration. But at some point, SpaceX will probably start to think about, okay, we have these changes to V2. What of the finer details do we even need to prove before moving to a bigger vehicle with different profiles, with different things to learn? And at some point, you just move on and go to the more modern hardware.
That's an interesting thing, and that's kind of what I was wondering too. Is this going to be something like we saw SN15 nailed the landing and they said, okay, that's it, we don't need any more ships for that kind of testing, let's start scrapping, or after Booster 4 and Ship 20, once they got that done, it was like, all right, it's done, we don't need it anymore, scrap it. Do you think that's something we could see for, something like Booster 12 or Ship 30, 31, aka Sparky? Do you think maybe that's possibly in the cards if all goes well?
Did you just call Ship 31 Sparky?
Yeah.
I personally think it's likely that we'll see them skip over ships. I think it's quite unlikely that we'll see them skip over boosters. The booster seems to be further along in its development than ship, as evident by, we haven't really seen or heard anything about a booster version 2, when we very much have ship. So that would be my guess. And again, how many of those ships do they skip? I personally see there being at least 2 more Starship V1 flights, including Flight 4, so I could easily see Flight 4 and Flight 5 happening, like Adrian said, getting more re-entry data and testing booster catch. But after that, I wouldn't be too surprised if they're like, we're just going to go to V2.
Yeah, I could definitely see that as an option. And that's kind of what I had in my head of, all right, once we get that first success, boom, let's move on. That's something that I've been thinking about, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see, or at least we see them do Ship 29, then Ship 30, and then say, okay, let's move on to V2.
Yeah, I think right now the potential for me is like 2 more flights for sure. Like I would be very surprised if 30 doesn't fly. However, after that, like I wouldn't put my hand in the fire for 31 or 32. Especially not 31. I have high doubts that 31 will ever fly.
Sparky, right.
Yeah.
Kevin Bradford asking, does this ship have electric TVC on it? Trevor?
Yep, it does. Every ship after Ship 26 has had electric TVC, and Booster obviously has had it since Booster 24/7, so Booster 9. Okay, I had to go through the boosters in my head. So yep, the entire vehicle at this point has electric TVC.
That's a good problem to have when you have too many boosters to go through.
It's becoming this funny problem in your head because there's so many Starship prototypes at this point, and there's a surprising amount of data that everybody here is still able to recollect. But I mean, we are talking at this point about like what 30, 40 prototypes that we are like talking about with boosters and ships combined. That's a lot.
That's why we have a lot of spreadsheets.
Test tanks.
I lost track with the test tanks. I fully admit that I no longer have full overview about every single test tank.
Yep, I think it was after like SN 7.2 or something like that. I'm like, I don't care.
Once they added dots, once they started to add dots to the serial number, I was like, yeah, no, sorry. It's like, I'm out.
Well, that's what spreadsheets are for. And fun fact, I was at the Starliner press conference beforehand, was talking with someone, and basically we agreed that NSF is keeping Microsoft Excel in business right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's see here. We've got 42 Spacebar with some support saying, will Trevor have NSF patches to give away, and is it a Swifty patch?
I will not have patches, unfortunately.
But I'm sure if you
there are
wanted
some
to...
crew members that have patches in the right now, and just pointing that out, by the way.
Yeah. There will be patches at some point there. Just got to find the right person. So it's an NSF scavenger hunt. Anon Emus, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Jim Cabot, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. And Stabby Unicorn with another $50 tip saying, thank you for the uninteresting facts. Have another tip. Well, thank you. I'm glad they were uninteresting enough. So genuinely, really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
I just realized something uninteresting going back to our previous conversation about test tanks. There was a BN 2.1 and a B 2.1. What the heck? This is why I ignore the test tanks, but next spaceflight has them all.
Like that's the moment where you're like, that single thing makes a difference of what are you talking about. At that point, it just becomes very So I'm with you.
When in doubt, next spaceflight. Exactly. Whenhop.com to see where we're at with the current launch and keep track of all of these crazy ships and boosters and flights and if it were methane explosions. Oh boy, but yes.
Poor Jack, that one quote.
True. I'm sure he would have rather said it's orange, but that kind of goes to Apollo 17.
It's kind of impressive how many Starship prototypes there are at this point. It's, I mean, also, it's something.
The bottom one was mislabeled. It said Starhopper, not Hoppy. Oh, I know I'm going to make Jack angry. He's probably not even watching. Here's an interesting question. As we look at all of these older models and we talk about V2 coming up, bless you. Coffee Monster 12 saying, would the transition to V2 cause a delay in the launch cadence? Adrian, what do you think?
It depends when it happens. So, if you change after 29 and 30, I would say the answer is yes. Because right now, we don't have a V2 Starship somewhere standing around waiting, right? Like, it's a very... They're not yet in the steps of, like, assembling a V2. If you then go to 30, 31, 32 and have maybe potentially 6 more months of testing, at some point you will have a ship, and then it will no longer be like a huge delay. However, and adding to that, I think there's a very, very high chance that the first V2 Starship will see an increase in testing again, which we have seen in the past when Starship has changed major versions. That was when more intense testing will come back. So I would not be surprised to see a V2 Starship perform maybe a tad more tests, maybe like another spin prime and pre-burn additionally before going fully crazy on the static fire, or doing like 2 or 3 cryo tests. Like, it's always a possibility once you're getting into some vehicle changes.
And I don't think that would be happening, at least for the next flight, because if I recall, the goal is that the time between Flight 4 and Flight 5, they wanted to get down to a month or less between the 2 flights. Right, Trevor?
That's the goal. Good luck. This
Cheering
is
for you,
typical,
SpaceX.
This is typical SpaceX, where they set these just very, very ambitious timelines that they even know are not going to hold. But by having everyone try to get ready for a flight a month after, they'll end up being ready sooner. So, I don't think any of us here at NSF are expecting them to come close to that. But, one can hope.
I think right now they are in the turnaround range of like 80 to 90 days. somewhere in there. I think if they're getting it even below 60 with the next flight, I mean, we are talking about the biggest rocket of all time that is then approaching almost 2 months cadence. That's something. There's a lot of smaller rockets that never achieve that cadence.
Shuttle, yeah.
Yeah, especially after only 4 flights.
Yeah, like, honestly, there's probably, like, rockets... Like, there's not that many rockets that launch, like, every 2 months. Like, a turnaround time of, like, less than 60 days or so. There's probably, like, 5 or 6 rockets that you can count where they're like, okay, that they achieved that.
That many?
I mean... Okay, we have Falcon 9.
Right.
That's the obvious one. I would go... I'll say it's probably Soyuz at some point.
Okay.
Electron.
It's for sure Long March 2D. And I think there will be also some other Chinese rockets that are in that mix. But I think that's kind of where we arrive. Like, maybe like 6, 7, somewhere in there.
It's still impressive.
Yeah, and these are all way smaller. Like, way smaller.
Very true, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what's the fastest turnaround between shuttles? Like, between different shuttles?
It was about 2 to 3 weeks. It was January of 1986, unfortunately. They had 2 missions in January. One successful, one was Challenger, unfortunately. So that was the fastest that they got.
And I guess after that they took more time again.
Yeah, that we never saw it that fast again, that's for sure.
Got it.
1985 had 10, I believe it was 10 launches in it, which was a record at the time, and still remains the record for the most shuttle launches in a year.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's still that's probably the biggest rocket with that cadence ever.
Yeah, probably. Let's see. Here's one from Sander saying, where was it? Yeah, there it is. I have a theory. What do you guys think? Jettison of the hot staging ring is to bring the center of mass more under the grid fins so they have more control. I see 2 shaking heads there.
No, I mean, lowering the center of mass, I think, is the by far biggest reason why they do it. I will let Trevor add anything to it, but I think, like, because right now you have this huge chunk of weight at the top, which is the worst place to have weight if you try to land. So I think that's the main reason. Trevor, any other thoughts?
Yeah, so I definitely fully agree with that point, and I suspect that's probably the main reason. But then there's also the part that the aerodynamic profile is going to completely change. And right, we saw this with Falcon 9, where they had those aluminium grid fins that then they switched over to titanium, and they needed those titanium grid fins for the side cores, right? If you look at Falcon Heavy demo flight, you'll see that the 2 side cores had the titanium grid fins, whereas the center core had the aluminium grid fins. Even though the center core was going through a higher heating entry than those 2 side cores. And the reason why they had to do that is because the aerodynamic profile is different enough with that nose cone than with the inner stage. That, especially my understanding, was during hypersonic regimes, which is when you're transitioning from supersonic to subsonic. Transonic, not hypersonic. That's when they kind of started losing control, at least in simulation. So they decided they needed, to add those teeth on the grid fins, which we also see on Starship, which helps during those hypersonic, the transonic regions. And then also just the slightly larger grid fin design helped out a lot. And it really just comes down to, air or fluid mechanics is weird. and very, very complicated. And that's just at a simple level, like, modeling the air around a car is hard. It gets even harder when you are going from, the booster is going from stationary to subsonic to transonic to supersonic to hypersonic to supersonic to transonic to subsonic to 0, all in one flight. The fluid mechanics on that is so hard. So that would be my other guess of something to do with that.
That's pretty good. That is a pretty good memory of all those, by the way, gotta say. And just so everyone's aware, we are aware that there is that venting going on over at Massie, some kind of Ship 26 testing. So, got me to say Ship 26, darn it. But something we'll keep an eye on there. We've seen the venting, and yeah, never a quiet day at Starbase. That is for sure. So
it also answers the question of will they have to like I'm really interested if this is actually engine testing, because that means if they load propellant on it, that would mean they can do that while Highway 4 is completely open, which was an interesting thing to talk about for this whole Masseys situation. But yeah, again, we have Ship 26, which already features engines, and there's always the potential that they could be starting to test their new infrastructure at Masseys and get into some sort of engine testing.
yeah, but that would mean Ship 26 would actually be useful.
I mean, it's a test bed. I think that's my purpose. You know what it will never do? Fly.
There you go. All right, there's at least a little comfort in that. But I will say, as long as we continue to see this testing over there at Masseys, we are going to stay live. Because this is, as you mentioned, it could be interesting to see if it gets fully frosty with the highway open. So that is something we're going to keep an eye on, and we are going to stay live past our scheduled hour of programming here. So a reminder, tag us at NASASpaceflight. We have more questions. And Kevin, this is exciting for Ship 26 fans, okay? For us non-Ship 26 fans, it's actually doing something.
I mean,
Yeah, so
you
I
will
guess
always have
it's
to say... go ahead, Trevor.
No, I was just going to say, right, this is perhaps the time when we'll learn about what we'll see for these Masseys engine testing, if this really is going into some propellant loading, like Adrian was saying, with the road being open, with no, overpressure notices, no road closures, no anything. This could be very interesting for the future of ship testing, where, maybe we really won't have that many signs of it, but we'll have to wait and see, right? For all we know, this is just some cryo load, but it could be more exciting than that. Yeah.
You absolutely never know. And also, that's always the good thing for everybody that dislikes Ship 26. It could always be the day it blows up.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Just saying.
All right, I appreciate that. I can live with that then. But yes, we're going to keep an eye on this testing. And now you've actually got me excited for it. So, fair enough. And
yeah,
also
right.
the fact that Kevin's not running the stream so we don't get the music. Oh, boy. Anyway, should probably get back to some sanity here. This isn't Flame Trench. We have rails here.
Some.
True. Let's see. Here's a question from Soul24Alt saying, what do you think is a reasonable time frame for the use of Raptor 3 in a Starship/booster? Because Ship 26 sure as heck doesn't have those. Trevor, what do you think?
I have no idea. We do not think that V2 of Starship has Raptor 3. We think it's probably, just a sub-block upgrade of Raptor, if anything. But we don't know. Elon hasn't mentioned Raptor 3 in a long time.
It's this whole version 2 problem of it cannot be a Raptor 2. It probably isn't Raptor 3. So it's like somewhere in between. probably Raptor 3, I think not before, like... I would be surprised if it appears there like a year from so. Like, I think it's a down-the-line project. It's not a, oh, here it is project.
Although, then again, knowing SpaceX, they're just randomly gonna all of a sudden be Raptor V3s that appear on site.
Absolutely. Again, they're always faster than we think.
That is true. Also, while we're looking at Masseys here, Mir Bonbon is asking, is this already on the new pad, or is this just a stand out there, Adrian?
This is right now. This is basically on the new setup, if I recall correctly. So it's basically the whole new thing they built for ship testing, which again kinda implies this could be engine testing. That's the whole thing of like they might use Ship 26 exactly for that, to test the setup, right? Because they build a setup, and why not use a ship that nobody needs for a flight to test the whole thing? Because there's always a chance that your ground service equipment doesn't perform as you thought it would do, and then it burns a perfectly fine ship, and that's not what it's doing. It's not burning a perfectly fine ship, it's burning Ship 26 if it doesn't work.
Yeah, so the ship that won't fly anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's like it's a test bed. I remain of the opinion it's like a test tank test bed basically. It's a full scale test tank.
I mean, that's fair enough. It is definitely an interesting looking test tank. It seems like, if anything, given the lack of flaps and lack of anything interesting, that it would mainly be used as a tank essentially for all the tank testing and potential engine testing, because it does have engines on it, right?
Yes, and they also removed the I think the stiffener rings, if I recall correctly. But I think we saw some pictures that they didn't remove them, they had them on, so that means they can fire the Raptors, right? I'm looking at the other phases here, but I think that's the correct answer.
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
Sorry, it's a long day.
Yeah. It's also not immediately clear, if they are doing engine testing, are they just going to start with single engine, or are they going to go to 6? Who knows?
It could always be a spin prime. Like, for all we know, like it doesn't have to be like, oh, they're going all the way yet. It could always be just, here's a spin prime, let's make sure this works.
Yeah, it's SpaceX. When we're seeing testing, you never really know what you're gonna get.
Testing is wide here. It's a wide range.
Yes.
I guess, is it worth, though, going over what they've done on this pad so far? Because so far they have done cryo tests on it, correct? Do we know if they've done any propellant loading tests?
I think, correct, like the problem is always it's hard to identify from the distance, right? Because it's like, we don't understand the system yet as well as the others, so there's some suspicion there might be some propellant loading going on there, and the question is just what are the commodities used, right? Like, and that's hard to see with Masseys, because we don't have like this clear sign recondenser we can just stare at all the time and be like, oh yeah, it has to be that. So yeah, and also a friendly reminder, and as I'm seeing this in the back channel, Ship 26 has static fired already, but that was on the suborbital pad B and not at Masseys. But yeah, to Trevor's point, so far Masseys has never seen a static fire, for example.
Or engine, or a spin prime, or a pre-burner, anything.
Yeah.
It's just been cryo loads, maybe propellant load, we don't know for sure.
Yep.
Definitely not engine testing.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think there's one person's opinion that I'd also be interested to hear about with Ship 26. Alex, do we have you with us?
I'm sure you have me. It's quite a weird day, I guess. I was here just writing, doing my thing, preparing for the Starship flight. I even made coffee because I have a long night ahead. And somehow I was called, hey, we have a ship being tested. Can you please being streamed, I was like, okay. So here I am, back on the saddle for a little bit more testing, ship testing, no other than that. Now that we don't have suborbital Pad B, I guess, it's kind of what we have to do now, look at Masseys and see what's going on there. And if they have any sort of testing, we'll cover it, of course, either through, right now, it just so happens that we're in a countdown to launch live stream, but you always have a Starbase live 24/7. So, yeah.
That is true. There is always that. Let's see. Right now, the person asking, we need a camera in one of those palm trees. That would be a little shaky given the wind there, but we do have some people on the way with closer-up cameras, so new views, hopefully, coming soon, TM.
Yeah,
You never know.
one of the things that I was actually telling in the back channels is that, as I was preparing to come here live, and people already pointed that out in chat, that they actually performed a test of Ship 26 while on that stand. It must have been like 2 weeks ago or something like that. And it was precisely where we were having one of these deflamed trench live streams, which was interesting. I think it was actually while we were in Leicester, Adrian, because I remember I downloaded the live stream and then I watched it on my flight home. And yeah, I think it was during that live stream. It was Jack, EJ, and Sawyer, and they were talking about Ship 26. And then, well, we all know what happened. We all know what Kevin did.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that.
I remember writing the show notes for that one, and I do not remember putting that in. I just want to say that.
Yeah.
Just to point that out. But yeah, it's interesting. Alex, what do you think? What's like? Do you think they're already ready for like engine testing at Masseys? Do you think any holdups are there that they couldn't test yet, or like? I mean, let's be real. If I get the chance to ask Alex a Starship question, I'm always taking it. So I'm taking it right now. Alex, enlighten us.
I think it's very early, but it's also SpaceX, right? Like, if they already did a cryo or whatever it was, it just seems, we just saw a little bit of frost on the liquid oxygen tank of Ship 26. That's all we saw. We didn't even see a full load. So, if they are confident, why not? It's a SpaceX. They're known to take risks. So, we'll see. This is sort of the thing, right? With now testing at Masseys, is that we don't really know. I mean, we see the tanks, we see the tank farm and everything, but we are not used to seeing all of the usual vents and signs and everything. We did at the suborbital pad, but it's no longer there. So this is like a new way, a new road to go through to learn all of these sort of indications. Like, for example, when we had testing at suborbital Pad B and there was no recondenser activation, for example, we knew that whatever they were loading, it was likely just either nitrogen or oxygen or both, but they were not loading methane, for example, so it was some kind of cryo test or something like that. So there's no really a good and easy way to tell apart what might be going on, especially since Masseys is also like in between a bunch of trees and everything. You can see there on that view. Like you have to really get through very intricate locations to get a good view of the whole site, and sometimes those locations happen to also be closed off when there's testing. So yeah, it's quite complicated to spot these things. It's not easy, that's definitely sure. On the other hand, though, they don't have to close the road. They don't have to close the launch site. Imagine having to close the launch site today when we are, 3 days from a launch of a Starship. So, yeah, probably not good.
Yeah, they wouldn't do this kind of testing if they would have to close the pad right now. Like, I think right now they have other things. Although, to be fair, it's not looking like they're working. Like Trevor said it earlier. Like, it's not that there's 50 million man lifts around the full stack right now trying to get last minute work done like they did for some previous flights. It looks like they're rather done. I mean, I say that, and that's like when the army of cherry pickers arrives and they're going all around and like working on everything. But looking at it right now, nope, no army of cherry pickers. So maybe they would have been fine if this would be on a launch site, but you never know.
It's also not cherry season right now, so.
Well, isn't it? I got a cherry, like I got cherries from the garden from my grandparents the other day.
Okay, it is, but then the joke doesn't work. Anyway.
Sorry, I had to call that one.
It's all right. I do want to take a moment here and hit some support. Aaron getting a bunch of items from the shop, saying thanks for everything that you do. Keep it up. Any Flight 3 patches? No. I'm sorry to say that they sold out completely, and we weren't kidding when we said when they're gone, they're gone. So unfortunately, that means they are gone. So it's the same thing with Flight 4 patches, though. Once those are gone, those will also disappear from the shop forever, never to return. So be prepared. If you want to get your Flight 4 patch, we're not joking. Now's the time. Get it while it's still in stock.
Or the Flight 1 patch. I'm looking at the live stock right now, and I can tell you, if you want a Flight 1 or a Flight 4 patch, you should think about it in the next few days. I do not think, and I'm not, again, we're not using this as a sales tactic. I'm just giving you a warning because you're like watching here, like as members of a very core audience. Like I do not think Flight 1 or Flight 4 will be on after the flight stream. That's the honest answer looking at the stock here.
There you go.
Oh,
also there
look
you
at that.
go, a view of Ship 26 from D out in the field.
Seems like Ship 26 is still not any sort of frosty though, even though we've seen some kind of puffs maybe from the tank farm. So they're probably
Looks so stupid.
quite some time from any test, if they were actually to perform any test today, obviously.
Are we gonna get some super cool D slow-mo of Ship 26 static fire?
You know, that would probably compensate how hideous Ship 26 looks like, because D always
would be
makes
cool,
everything
yeah.
look cool. No pun intended, because it probably will be cool, but you know.
I mean,
it would be an accomplishment to make Ship 26 look anything but awful.
like the slow-mo guy shirt, everything
if he
looks better in
manages
slow-mo.
that, yeah.
So, and again, that's all assuming that we even see a static fire. This could just be getting frosty, if even that. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
slow-mo spin prime, yeah, I mean, I guess it'd still be
I mean,
better
so
than
far
nothing.
we don't
but-
even have frost, so we'll see.
True. SG saying, have you already talked about the cancellation of Dear Moon? Greetings from Germany. There you go, Adrian. Keep it
Yeah.
up. We've talked about it on the last countdown to launch as well. It's
Also-
a shame. Yeah, go ahead.
Adrian, you covered that today on Starbase Update.
Yeah,
We had a Starbase Update by none other than Adrian.
if everybody's on the road, I get to do Starbase update. So, but yeah, sorry, I think you're totally on track there. Like, is there anything else to add to this? Then, of course, we are sad for the crew that they're not like I cannot even pretend to know what they are feeling, because like I was never denied the chance to go to the moon. Like, I'm not saying I fully understand them, because I don't.
The general feeling is we feel really bad for the entire crew, and also we're not surprised.
Yeah, that's I think that's correct. Good, sorry.
I was going to say, I think we knew it was going to be delayed. I just don't think we thought it was going to be canceled. So, yeah. And
So,
that goes
again-
along with Ethereal Swordsman, who says, how long do we think it'll be before Tim gets a new mission? I think he's still 100% flying eventually. We can always hope. That's for sure.
If
But
there's
that's,
if there's a person we know that goes on a Starship flight at some point, I bet it's Tim, and I wish it to him. I really think he deserves it. So
Yeah.
good luck. Tim.
I think I mentioned that on Saturday, whenever our last countdown to launch was, where I was like, it's kind of I don't know, like it's kind of a pain to lose that opportunity, but also at the same time, now in hindsight, well, you know, because there were a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is bad PR for SpaceX," but I will argue that it's actually probably bad PR for Yusaku because now it's like, oh, he's very impatient and he like is not waiting to go to the moon. Like if you were given the opportunity to go to the moon, you will probably wait 10 years if necessary, right? Like it's sort of like that.
I would
right
wait
now.
20.
Yeah.
If somebody would 25 even, I would
Yeah.
go even as generous and say 25, 30. If somebody would offer, let's be real. If anybody of us here would be offered, hey, you want to fly around the moon, I
Yeah.
would, as long as I need to wait, I would need to, like, that queue can be as long as it is.
And
If I
and
get the chance to go to the moon.
Yeah,
go
and
to the moon.
perhaps now in hindsight, it might actually be a blessing to not have an impatient person on your spaceflight crew. I don't know. It seems to me that if you want to be in spaceflight and actively be within spaceflight and not just like an external observer like us, well, some of us may actually eventually go to be part of all of this, but in the meantime, we are observers, and you are allowed to not have patience when you are in this side of things. When you are on the right in the industry, you gotta take it slow. You gotta really have a lot of patience because things do tend to slip a lot in space flight. So yeah.
cancel-
look at
this-
Starship, right?
This
It's
cancellation
not
makes me once again appreciate Jared Isaacman. This is like the moment this was cancelled. My first thought was like, "Oh, I'm so glad we have Polaris." Like,
Yeah.
that this program exists in this form is crazy. I think Trevor, you seem like you have some thoughts about this.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Why just really didn't seem like the person for a mission like Dear Moon. He doesn't have the flight experience like Jared Isaacman does. And frankly, if I was on a crew, I don't know him well. And it's hard to say how much of his personality is just because of the massive language barrier that is him only speaking Japanese and not that much English. But I don't know. It was just like he wasn't the vibe I would want in a commander for a mission that's going to be one of the first commercial flights of Starship around the moon. That I really would want someone like Jared Isaacman who is just that guy is thinking 20 steps ahead and wants to go home and make sure everyone is as safe as they possibly can be. And like you said, Adrian, I am so thankful the Polaris mission is a thing. It's like repeating space history, but this time for commercial. And it's awesome that it's all private and it's just such a cool program. And I really think like the hype around Dear Moon kind of, I don't want to say it died, but it definitely got lesser once Polaris was announced and once Polaris was like actually started happening, right? The first Polaris launch we expect is, on the order of a month away.
Exactly. I mean, thankfully there are people like Jared out there that help support the idea of getting people into space that might not fit the mold, let's say, of what you think of as an astronaut, including getting more artists, more of the right brain versus left brain people into space, for lack of a better way to put it. So
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Jared, and like if you look at his track record, he doesn't mind delays, right? If that means pushing things forward. Polaris Dawn was originally supposed to be end of 2022, and well, we are middle 2024, and hopefully, knock on wood and everything, cross your fingers, whatever rituals you want to do. Hopefully, it'll be launching in about a month's time, somewhere in. I think I've seen early June, early to mid. No, excuse me. Early July, excuse me. Early to middle of July. So hopefully we get that launch. But it's being a long and arduous road for that mission. It was supposed to launch a lot earlier, but it's a very complicated mission. There's a new type of a spacesuit that SpaceX has developed. There's a lot of other things that they needed to test and they needed to validate and they needed to train for. And so, that's the whole deal with a space flight. You cannot say, oh, it delayed 1 year past the deadline that I thought was going to be on. I'm dropping. Like, that's not really good, in my opinion. I don't know. Like, I think Jared is a lot better in that sense.
I mean, hey, if someone wants to help sponsor one of the first disabled astronauts in space, I'm still here. Just saying. I'll take suborbital. I'm not picky.
Yeah, I mean, if we've talked about this before. I think the only capsule I would right now fly on is New Shepard. That's my take.
Anyway, as we take a look at Starship here, bring it on back to Starbase for a bit. Actually going to take it away from Starbase for half a second here for Michael, getting Delta IV Heavy in the awesome power of 3 RS-68A engines, and it's orange. Nicely done. Josh, with the tip from tips.nasaspaceflight.com saying, Ship 26 fan club. All right, fair enough. You guys can enjoy your silly ship just like the Ares 1 fan club.
I mean, is Ship 26 the new Ares 1 fan club? Is that like, are they like, do they have like a club together?
The problem is the Ship 26 fan club has more than 5 people in it.
That's true.
I'm with Meaningless here. It says, here's to a Viking funeral for Ship 26. If it's gonna go, I say let it blow.
No,
I mean,
it's not gonna be flying. It's not gonna be doing this. I'm just sorry. Can you put me like full screen so people see what I'm talking about? Because it's literally like the flap is literally like here. There you go. There you go. See, this is awesome. Ship 26 will, it dreams every single night about doing something like this, or even have these beautiful tiles. Look at this. My God.
It's like,
and this is Ship 28. Like this is the first one to actually go through this, right? We have Ship 29 already on top of Booster 11 on the pad that hopefully will actually do this properly and not tumbling and doing all these,
is that
silly
is
stuff.
that the picture? Is that the like Wolverine meme where he is in bed, like with a picture in hand, but it's like Ship 26 in bed and like looking at a picture of re-entry heating? Like, is that what we are looking at? That's the meme I'm seeing in front of my eyes right now. I kind of want to make that now.
Yeah, I'm sure someone's gonna make that meme. If so, tag us in the Discord.
Sure.
Master Toymaker saying, Ship 26 seems to me likely testing new internal configurations, i.e. header tanks, downcomer arrangements. Otherwise, they would just build a tank. But they haven't really done much work to the ship itself, have they? It seems like it was more the work at Masseys and the stand than it was the ship, right?
I mean, yeah, I think we just saw what they added a bunch of stringers for some reason, which was really weird, and which is probably just some ground testing thing that they were doing. And then, yeah, this definitely seems like it's testing GSE, right? Like Adrian was saying earlier, they've installed all of this new service equipment at Masseys for the static fire stand, and instead of risking an actual vehicle, risk a vehicle that if you lose it, who cares? Kevin is sad for a few minutes. That's, we can celebrate that Ship 26 is gone.
You will never get the end of it though in meetings and stuff. That's for sure. Like,
I will say though, it is not true that there's any new internal configuration with Ship 26. We've already seen.
Yeah.
We've seen it being built. That's actually one of the last vehicles that we were, fortunate to see being built as it was being stacked, because then they started putting the Star Factory in between our cameras, and so it was like, we were not able to see anything after that. But, we were able to see the barrel sections passing by and being stacked and everything. All of the hardware on this vehicle is just essentially like sort of like a change Ship 25, but it has nothing of the newer ships like Ship 28 or Ship 29. It does not have any of the upgrades that we have already seen on these 2 vehicles that have flown. And, well, one of them has flown and the other one is about to fly. So we know it's definitely not for flight, but it is also not any sort of a special vehicle, because there were a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is a tanker vehicle. This is a whatever." It's like there's nothing special with it in terms of the construction. It just doesn't have it doesn't even have a payload bay, for example. It doesn't have a payload dispenser. It doesn't have a payload door. It doesn't have any of that. It's just a ship that they removed the tiles, because it was built initially with tiles, and you can see some of those studs for the tiles to be installed and everything. They removed the tiles. We have videos and pictures of them taking the tiles out from these sections of this vehicle. There's nothing special with it in terms of the construction itself. It's later on they added those stringers, but other than that, that was like a later addition, like several months later. We don't even know if SpaceX really wanted to do that in the first place when they started removing tiles. Like, it's been so long. It's been around for so long that they might have changed their plans for many times. But yeah, there's in general there's nothing very special with this ship other than that. Well, it will not fly. I can already tell you that.
There's some good venting going on right now on the Masseys tank farm. We can see that there.
We see people yelling frost in chat too. Is that a little bit on the bottom there, right underneath where that venting, right above where that venting is?
I'm not in the situation right now to perform proper A/B testing.
I don't see any frost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
and
like
that's
the like a horizontal. Yeah. Yeah, but that's.
Yeah, there will not be any frost there. There's also like a band of stringers on the section that joins the mid-lock section and the engine section, and that is usually very, like, for the people that may want to see frost and they're seeing frost, they're saying, "Oh, that's frost." Usually what they're seeing is actually that band because it's shiny. Once you start seeing frost, though, it'll grow and it'll become thicker, so it'll be more noticeable. I just don't see. I'm trying to look at different feeds and everything. I just don't see the frost. I do see the the GSE venting. That is definitely there.
Yeah, I think although based on our knowledge about tank farms, which is at this point has something, there was. I would call this tank farm way too recent to start up, to fully kick into gear again, to already be in the fueling operations. It completely died down.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I know that there are certain tanks and everything, and I've seen it, when we do our flyovers and everything of Masseys, but from the ground, I will not be able to tell right now, especially with this view, because I'm not familiar with this view. It's something that I will probably have to take in and try to look at everything where it is located and things like that. But yeah, if I'm being honest, I have no idea how to recognize different things. If you remember, I was asked, like if they were to load today and whatever testing, because even when they do like a cry or whatever, there's always like a simulated T0, right? Like an end of that test at some point. And like for engine testing, at least on suborbital pad B, it used to be about 70 minutes from seeing frost appearing on the vehicle to then seeing a test, either a spin prime or a pre-burner test or a static fire test, whatever they were doing. If they are doing something like that, this is a completely different GSE, ground support equipment, essentially. So we really have no idea how long it will take. So we'll see. Again, this is the first time. I'm trying to still look at whether there's frost or not, because I still see people saying frost, but I just don't see the frost, and I'm starting to think that they're trolling just to look funny. But yeah, we'll see. Just wait and see. This is tank watching, pure tank watching, just like the old days.
Yeah, and along the lines of testing there, Xorg asking, has the Masseys flame trench been tested? Adrian, do we know?
This would, like this or a future engine testing of Ship 26 would be the test of that. Like, that's basically, once they go into this testing, that would be the testing. So, no, they have not, like, moved into, like, they don't have put, like, a single Raptor over that and, like, I don't know, sand-strolled it.
Gotcha. Yeah, this, assuming that we would see a static fire with this, it could, again, this is just testing. This could be just testing loading up with the propellants. It could be spin prime. We don't know yet. So, this is, it would be interesting to see if they test it, though. Let's see, and then SVF, Ollie, thank you for becoming a PadRat member. Anonymous, got a bunch of store purchases here, saying patch time. Thank you very much for that, and grabbing the patch. Also, Tom, completing the set. Thanks for the great coverage, and go IFT4. Corey, saying keep up the great coverage. Such a great community here. We're glad to have you all as a part of the community. Emma, been watching since Starhopper and looking forward to our multi-planetary future. Go NSF. That's going to be an exciting day. David, saying, love your live stream, guys. Well, thank you. We love having you here. And then David Graper saying, becoming a Capcom member. Thank you. And a reminder, Capcom and above gets access to the NSF Discord, so hopefully we'll see you in there. And David also with a $50 super chat. No message came through, but the support is extremely beyond appreciated. Thank you. It allows us to have as many cameras as we do out at Starbase, to have people like D out there bringing you this particular live view that you see of Ship 26. So, thank you. I also do want to make sure that we thank Trevor, who's been with us here from the beginning for the countdown to launch. And as we transition to countdown to whatever Ship 26 is doing, I know you have some other things to attend to. So we will let you go, and thank you very much, Trevor, for joining.
It's countdown to food in my belly at this point, but no, it's been a pleasure. It'll be interesting to see what SpaceX does today at Masseys. Exciting nonetheless, but as you've been saying, the real excitement will be on Thursday. So let's just all hope it goes, and thanks everyone for joining.
Certainly, if we don't hear each other before that anymore, Trevor, good travel and enjoy Boca.
Yeah, I'm excited. It'll be crazy.
Guaranteed excitement, as it says, right?
For sure.
All right. Well, thank you, Trevor.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Trevor.
Bye.
Rare Dave with a question here, saying that if Ship 26 pops today, would it delay the fourth flight test? Alex, what do you think?
Well, if it pops, one has to look at what caused the pop in the first place, right? I don't know. It's like Sparky, right? If something happens with another vehicle, they will probably have to look at if there's any commonalities. But yeah, I don't think it will be like a straightforward delay of it failed, so that means we're delaying yes or yes. Like maybe it's something that they can put in within all of those pre-launch checks.
Yep.
Yeah, and
it's really depending on, like, as Alex said, like I don't know, if a weld line that I for example, a weld line failing, like, that's probably a thing of, like, that's more coming down to individual production kind of situation. I wonder if, like, this is the kind of things they would have verified in, like, cryo tests on a big stack, for example. But on if it's, I don't know, like, if in a theoretical scenario it goes to a spin, for example, a spin prime or a static fire, and the Raptor blows up, all theoretical scenarios, I think then we are more talking about, oh, is that the same kind of block Raptors that is on the ship right now? That's not good. So that's always the, like, I think the thinking of, like, do you find commonalities? Do you find things that worry you? Like, do you make a basically quick check in your brain and be like, I don't like this. So, yeah.
And in terms of Masseys, it's located decently far away from the launch site itself, so it wouldn't be an issue of, say, road closures or anything like that, though, right?
No, it's from what we can tell, whatever this test is today, it doesn't warrant any road closure. So that will also give us a good ballpark of what kind of test can they do at Masseys without in any way impacting Highway 4. So, yeah, that's still an unanswered question for us. We don't. I don't have a. I cannot tell you there's a document that says for static fires they have to do that for Masseys right now, or for spin primes they have to do that. Like, we don't know.
The other question, I don't know if we know this or not. Mark's Playtime pointing out that crane's a little close. Do we know how far away that crane is from the ship, and would they fire with other work in progress like that?
Alex, how close is that crane? Like decently close, right?
No idea. One of the problems is that there's not really good perception right now, because it's like it's right in front, so it might be very far away, but it just looks very close because it's like in the view. It's like right in between ship 26 and the camera. So I have no idea really how close it is, but it shouldn't matter because there's a flame trench this time around, right? So everything, if they fire the engine, for example, or even if they do whatever they do today, it'll just go through the bucket and go the other end. So it probably will not matter.
I wonder if two commodities are today's involved test, because I've now, and this is very rough estimate, like this is like red border speculation alarm, bumpers go off, everything. But there's two parts of the tank farm that now have spooled up. You have the right side, which has first vented, but you also have now seen venting. And I'm sorry, I'm not. So, just quick explanation. I was not set up for having my desk screens in front of me. I was doing like a camera show. So that means my camera's here. My screens are there. So that's why this setup is funky. But on the left side here on the screen, where these two vertical tanks are, these bigger ones, we have also now seen some venting. So I wonder if this means that there are two sides of tank farm spooling up here, which usually would indicate maybe two commodities, like either nitrogen or liquid oxygen, or liquid oxygen and liquid methane being involved in today's test. That's just a very, very rough estimation, and like a very, very rough looking here, just based on not knowing anything about this tank farm.
Yeah, there's still a lot that we don't really know yet. Again, the fact that we haven't seen that much testing with it since it's pretty new. This is kind of the first real big test of what they might end up doing fuel and then engine-wise, again, whether that be spin prime, static fire, anything along those lines.
Yeah, that's kind of the excitement of this test, right? Honestly, because this is potentially us like getting, thanks to D here, a very good view of the test. So that means we get to see these indicators. We get to see, like, they're not indicators yet. The process of making an indicator is you basically have a test, and then you kind of reverse engineer based on your knowledge, based on your understanding, and then you're like trying to get a better understanding of what did I just see. The problem that, for example, Alex and I have in a situation like this is we are really bad with first tests, basically. That's just in the nature of how this operates. The first test will always be the worst in your like knowledge. The first approach is always you have no idea. Then you have a bit of idea. Then you get a bit of better, and like and this right now is in a situation where we don't even know we don't know the playing field. We don't know how it looks perfectly. So yeah, it's an interesting situation.
Interesting indeed. Yes, and also again the fact that these tests, unlike say the first test of the space shuttle, don't have people on them too. So. Let's take some more of your questions here. Since this is technically still kind of countdown to launch, as you see over my head there, Lawrence DK asking, will the booster and or the ship actually be recovered if IFT is successful? Figure we can clear that up while we're here, Alex.
There we go. No, it is not going to be recovered. Whatever happens with these two vehicles, it will not be recovered. The only thing that would be recovered is if there's like any debris floating in the ocean at the Gulf of Mexico location for the booster. If there's any debris floating, SpaceX has the duty, essentially because of the environmental assessment, to have something out there to be able to recover those debris. And they actually had in the past a ship going out there and and sort of surveying the area and trying to look for that stuff. So yeah, we have we have actually seen that one of the usual ships that is used for that. It's Go America, and yeah, it's already at Brownsville, I think. So it's just a matter of putting it out when the launch is about to happen.
Go America. I like that.
Someone said, why not? Well, it's very easy. Recovering something that has splashed down in the ocean, it's very hard. And I know a lot of people always bring up, oh, but P1050 from CRS-16, it was towed. There was a Falcon 9 booster that did that. And it's like, yeah, that was towed like maybe a mile away from the port. And there was a week-long discussion whether to actually make it back to port or not. There's some rumors out there that perhaps Port Canaveral was not too happy to accept that booster being brought in because it was a potential hazard essentially. This will be about 20 times further than that on a vehicle that is at least 1.5 times as tall and about 2.5 times as wide. So yeah, that's for the booster. And the ship, well, let's not talk about the ship, right? Because that's like way out in the middle of the Indian Ocean. If it actually survives re-entry and does the flip and landing burn, and it gets intact to the surface of the ocean, I don't think it's really that worthy. The time that it's going to be worthy to recover any vehicle, that's going to be when they land back at the launch pad, and that's when they're going to be ready to get those vehicles back. But for the meantime, it just doesn't make sense.
Just drown it. Yeah, just splash it and drown it.
Yep, they actually have on the documentation that they will open the valves on the booster. They will try to sink it on purpose. Essentially, if it floats in one piece, they will try to sink it. And the last resource, so to speak, to be able to sink it, they have the ability to shoot at the structure of the vehicle to make a hole and sink it.
It's written in the paperwork they can shoot it with a gun.
Yeah, with a ship that is called Go America. Like, that's so American.
It's lining up perfectly. You cannot if you try to make a joke about that, you couldn't make it better.
It's too perfect.
Yeah, but it makes sense, right? Because you don't want to have a 70-meter giant steel tube floating in the ocean forever. That is kind of a hazard. If you can solve it with conventional methods, you can always blow it up, and then it's solved because the single parts will go down. And I think there was also some environmental documentation years ago that talked about how they will mostly turn into reefs. Mm-hmm. There's not that much hazardous material on a booster. It's basically just a giant steel tube. So what would happen is you have a reef forming probably around the booster.
I was just about to mention that most of these expended rocket parts that end up in the ocean actually do become artificial reefs. So as much as it seems like it's destroying nature and the waters, it's actually helping in some ways. So
it's not that big of a deal as some the biggest polluters are more when we are talking about stuff like microplastics, and that's not usually on a rocket. If you have microplastics on your rocket, I don't know. That's why did you put it there?
I mean, we may need to get some hard hats out to the fish that are directly underneath it, but other than that, yeah.
Yeah, if you're a fish right there when it comes down, I'm sorry. I cannot make that any better. That's just bad luck.
Oh, anyway, continuing along. Moonglow saying, are the tiles one-shot or reusable? Well, I guess technically, since we just talked about the fact that it's sinking for this mission, they're one-shot. But in the long run, the goal is to have them reusable, right, Alex?
Yeah, that's the whole deal with these tiles, right? That the goal is for them to be reusable. Obviously, the material is reusable because it's a very similar material than the one used on shuttle and on other certain spacecraft that also use the similar. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it's sort of based on that material, and the material itself is reusable. The problem is obviously, whether the tile can actually endure another re-entry afterwards and things like that. It might get damaged a little bit, but still survive re-entry. But you wouldn't want to use it again on another re-entry, right? That sort of stuff. It's just a matter of looking at the whole thing. I think Elon put it best on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, like a couple of days ago, where he said it's not about the ideas, like different ideas to try out for the heat shield. It's actually just executing it, do the re-entry, just like they did with Ship 26, Ship 28, excuse me, and just try to see if the heat shield, where it's more resilient, where it is not, and essentially improve upon that. We're probably going to see a lot of these re-entering, and maybe some of them will fail, but that's the whole way of progress.
We have a new vent. On the left side of I'm right now referring to them as the right and the left tank farm. That's where I am with my knowledge here. But in the center of that, where you see like these black tanks, there's now a vent that is like almost a condensation. You see that coming from there. It's not part of the big vent that goes out to the right of the tank farm. It's almost like going up sometimes. It's also not constantly there. There it's a bit again. See that? That just entered. There's something frosty in there. I think that's like some sort of subcoolers. You can see like them now forming condensation in the middle of the tank farm.
You're talking about to the left of that long white tank on the ground?
Yeah, like to the left of the white tank. You can see there's something coming out of the white tank, or like there's condensation in part of the white tank that's on the right side. That's probably part of like either LOX or methane or nitrogen being chilled down. But there's also on the left side of this white tank, there's some sort of like subcoolers, and they are now being frosty as well. They emit like some sort of there. See that condensation?
Yeah.
So that just started. Sorry, this is just me staring at this tank farm right now. I'm just enjoying the moment here of just having a new tank farm to look at.
Well, there you go. That's something. New tank farms. That's one of the few benefits right now for Ship 26.
So I'm not familiar with this tank farm or this setup, but I think Ship 26 is very close from getting frosty. This is something that I was trying to type in the back channel, but it's completely useless right now because of my setup here. But the thing that I've been seeing with Ship 26, it kind of looks like maybe there's some discoloration appearing on the LOX tank, at least for the last 10 minutes or so, which usually tends to indicate that they are starting to sort of get it cold. And then
you can see the discoloration.
If you scroll back, you see the discoloration as you go along in the video. You can see that it grows up, and it's like right now around 2 rings up the LOX tank. And again, this is something that usually what it means is that within a few minutes after that, we start seeing the frost on the LOX tank of the vehicle.
And I now wonder if this subcooler system that just started in the middle there, Alex, like a few minutes ago, is part of what we basically see on the subcoolers on the orbital tank farm once they are loading, which increases venting as they load. And the discoloration also means they are also like probably loading something, right? Because there's something cold in that tank. So I wonder if that's like part of the like a comparable system, where now something is being actively cryo-chilled in preparation for for being loaded. That's just me looking at things here.
By the way, Gareth Cole pointing out saying, I love how excited Adrian got over some condensation while totally missing the drone.
Yeah, I mean, it's a drone, whatever. But condensation.
Speaking of, for the people just joining us, as you could see, we were kind of expecting the countdown to launch being the launch of Flight 4, which you've got, there it is. You've got the ship and the booster actually on the orbital launch mount out there. That is about 63 hours away still. Meanwhile, Ship 26 decided to say, hey, I want some attention over here at Masseys, and they started doing some testing. So that is what we are looking at now. So the countdown in the top left is to the launch of the full stack of 11 and 29. It is not of what you're looking at now, Ship 26, which will launch hopefully never. That's just the Ship 26 hate.
That at the end, that gut punch, Sawyer. It's like completely serious statement, perfect, and like bang.
It's like the best comedy is done straight, so it's the same thing there. Of, you know, you got to slip it in there, just normal.
Absolutely. The venting on the right side is certainly increasing. Something like it's getting more and more. The left side was like venting some at the beginning, and it's completely inactive now. I have no idea what that means.
We are going to, again, this is all relatively new because we haven't seen much testing with suborbital stuff here, at least at Masseys, because we had the last static fire of the old suborbital pad, which is now destroyed essentially, and they started switching everything over to Masseys, and so far, most of it has just kind of been, testing the lines and the setup there? What testing have we seen so far at Masseys for this new suborbital test stand, Adrian?
Some sort of cryo or propellant load. That's the honest answer is we don't know what exactly, if I'm correctly here, Alex, but something was loaded onto vehicles on this new setup. The big question now, of course, is was that nitrogen? Was that oxygen? Was that methane? We don't know. So this still could be everything. Like this could just be another cryo load. This could be a spin prime. This could be a pre-burner, a static fire. Who knows? That's the exciting part. It just perfectly lined up with this show now. So while we're sitting here anyway, why not observe Ship 26 and look at that venting? It's really quite powerful.
Frost.
Now. Oh, Alex.
Frost. We have Frost.
Oh yeah, true. Lox tank.
There we go.
Lox tank Frost.
Now you can call Frost. People in chat.
So
put Frost.
What's that to a simulated
like,
T0?
closely
Like
looking.
roughly.
No idea. Because this is a new stand, so I have no idea. If this were the suborbital pad, I will tell you, 72 minutes from a test. But this is a whole new setup, so we don't really know. I think on this one they actually have like actual subcoolers. I don't remember, to be fair, if they had the size of the subcoolers that we see, for example, at the orbital launch site. This orbital tank farm, I don't think it had those kind of subcoolers, for example. So I imagine that maybe this setup is sort of like an in between the orbital tank farm and what the suborbital pad was.
There you go. Also, by the way, I do want to point out, Alex, while you're on the screen there, Gary Swift saying, oh no, someone strapped Alex to one of the forward flaps. Nice background, by the way. So just wanted to make sure we acknowledge that while you're on screen.
I'm here moving as the tiles, whatever, fall off, or I don't know. But yeah, I guess we'll also find out how fast things go if we see like a really quick fill of the ship, for example. That'll tell us maybe how faster things are compared to the suborbital pad. But yeah, I was sort of like being quiet, looking at the screen, because I had seen that the LOX tank had become a little bit colder, that condensation that you could see before. As I was trying to see if I could see the frost, and as soon as I saw it, I was like pointing like at it, and I was muted, trying to unmute myself, say frost.
That's the thing. Alex and I have, like, when we have cams, Alex and I start to weirdly point at things at cameras. We have noticed at some point. It's like when it's apparently quite funny to observe us pointing at things when you have both of us on camera, because we start to basically communicate with pointing.
Especially because you're also looking at the monitors in a totally different direction from what people are seeing on screen. So if you point at something, it's like, oh, that! But that could be anything to anyone watching.
I hope it's okay, by the way, Kevin, that I'm looking at this direction now. Otherwise, I don't see the test.
Yeah, I think
Minor
someone said, like, can we get a closer camera? This is the closest that you can get. That's the problem with Masseys, that this is it. This is all you get. It's not like the subaru pad.
And if we
That's
zoom
how
in
it is.
anymore, as you can see, it is quite a windy day, so it's already a little bit on the shaky cam just when the gusts come up, so imagine going even closer.
As long as
So-
it doesn't
Yeah, this is
glitch
kinda-
like mine, it's okay.
This feels like old school suborbital test farm watching. Like when we didn't have all of these close-up cameras and it was just like the Mary camera from the roadblock. This feels like these kind of tests.
Yeah. This is where I'd put my close-up camera, if I had one.
If I had. Wonderful. But yeah, look at that frost stream. That's growing quite fast.
We had a question earlier from Sandra here who's saying, if they fill a booster, you always have a ring without frost in the middle. Do they not fill the methane to the top? I guess it's kind of the same with these tests too, in some ways.
I mean, there's like also a small space in the middle that is not I think, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't fill the LOX tank to the brink on the booster so far. And B, there's like the common bulkhead in there, which also adds like a bit of space where the LOX doesn't touch the tank wall. But I think we also speculate that they're not fully loading LOX.
I think what they're talking about is the common dome section rather than, because there's two things here. The problem is this sort of question is probably a little bit confusing because there's two different things here. If they fill a booster, you always have a ring without frost in the middle. Do they not fill the methane to the top? So the one that, so the methane tank is actually the one above that ring that you don't see any frost in the middle. The whole reason why they don't have that ring without frost is there's two reasons. We think on the one hand we think that they actually unload the booster liquid oxygen tank. That tank that this person is mentioning is the LOX tank, the one in the bottom. But also because of where the tank vents are located, if you think about it, the methane tank is here, right? The common dome, it's sort of welded at this height, and so you have here, this is the common dome, and so above it you have the methane tank, and below it you have the liquid oxygen tank. You have the really topmost part of that liquid oxygen tank. That's where you have all your vents, you have the pressurization systems because it's right at the top, and that's where you put your ullage gas and everything. That's where you have your vents, and so it's very complicated to really fill up the entire thing if you have your vents there, because then all of your liquid oxygen will just vent out from those vents as you keep loading, right? And you also always try to leave a little bit of not empty space, but like a little bit of space for the ullage gas, so that you have some leeway for boil off and things like that. In the case of the methane tank, you don't really see it like that, because the methane tank, so if you go to the booster all the way to the top, you have the methane, the top dome, and then there's vents that come out from really the top. There's like tubes that come from the top of the dome, and then they go out through pretty much above the grid fins. There's like 4 vents right above the grid fins that they vent out from there, from the methane tank. So you can almost fill it up all the way, almost. Like, obviously, again, you normally leave a little bit of that, but yeah. So in the case of the liquid oxygen tank, that question that was posed, that is essentially what is happening. There's a little bit of underload, but also you never fully load it all the way up, because that's where you have your vents, and you will essentially be well, you will be venting your liquid oxygen. If anyone remembers the first wet dress rehearsal of a Starship, January 23rd, I think it was 2023, that big vent that occurred from methane tank of booster 7, that was probably methane that was being vented by accident.
Yeah, it's like I remember when that vent happened, everybody was like, "Oh, they vented a lot of nitrogen." And I'm like, that vent, like based on that tank position and based where that is, like everybody that I feel like observed this was like, that's a methane vent.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm also a bit traumatized by the word vent because of Starliner recently, but that's just me.
Yeah, I to be fair, I'm not. Vent is still like, I feel like I adapt that to a lot of different rockets. If I ever hear anomaly, like anomaly, what was it, like anomaly team or
The anomaly team or the anomaly chief.
Yeah, like that's the words I don't want to hear anymore. Please never mention the anomaly chief ever again, telling me that they seek guidance from them. That would be nice.
Yeah, in case you can't tell, I'm part of the Cape team usually, so Florida side, Starliner with that. Anyway, Starship is what we're talking about right now, though. Let's see. I do want to thank some people who got items from the store here. Kevin saying, merge fire to the face. And then saying, if Ship 26 ends up providing any amount of excitement, then I'm fine with the way that it looks. All right. I see your viewpoint. I'll say that. But I reject your reality and substitute my own. Anyway, thank you for getting the items from the shop there. Ethereal Swordsman, I have some Pepsi Nitro now. If you haven't tried it, it's very sweet and smooth. If you have tried it, what do you think? I think the Cola Wars ended in the 80s. Just saying that. And if you're wondering which cola won in space, neither. They were both absolutely terrible because of the whole lack of carbonation thing. Because, bubbly drinks in space are not good. And they both failed miserably. So that is why there is no Coke or Pepsi in space. They tried. They were both bad.
Yeah, like in general, carbonation doesn't belong in drinks. That's my opinion. I will voice. This is one of the worst takes I think I have. And I mentioned this to other people before, and I got very angry messages about that. But cola is better without carbonation. There, I said it.
Yeah, keep in mind it was also flat, and it was warm, and the bubbles. Yeah, it was a failed experiment, and it's a good thing they only tried it once each for Pepsi and Coke.
Beer's, by the way, the beer's the exception. I see that comment by Sean, but the beer's the exception. But cola, I don't know. It feels better when you aggressively just remove the carbonation and then drink it. I don't know. Is that just me?
Based off of the comments in chat, yeah, that's just you.
Looking forward to that comments. I'm not even looking at chat.
Marito just called you a crazy German right off the bat, so yeah.
You're fired.
You're fired. Yeah, you carbonated water, same thing.
I only drink tap water. I don't like carbonated water.
Oh my gosh, yes, you have started a riot in chat right now. So, congratulations.
Yep, I see it.
Also, my goodness, Lena, I apologize for the pronunciation there a sec, gifting 55 red team memberships. Wow. Thank you. That is extremely generous, and hopefully the people that got those gifted memberships first, make sure a huge thank you to Lainey, and second, hopefully you get to enjoy a lot of the behind the scenes pictures that end up there, a bunch of the member perks, including for launch day, don't forget we have the 4K members multi-view live stream, where you get to see all the different cameras cycling through in 4K as well. So lots of excitement there as we see a big vent as well on the left side of your screen there too. So lots of excitement there as well. But thank you, Lainey.
There's probably no better time to join like the membership program than right now, because this is probably the peak of like, that's a big vent.
That's what I was just saying, yeah. It almost looks like a mini Pope stack over there, but...
Is that methane load? I'm now curious if that is like methane or like upper tank load, because, we'll see. This could be like a aggressive subcooler. Basically like a subcooler that is right now subcooling, which means a lot of nitrogen is vaporizing.
It could be for methane, since those two vertical tanks are for methane. That's the only two that I can recognize, because those two have a really long history.
Oh yeah, they were everywhere, right?
Yeah. So for those that missed it, those two tanks were at Sanchez like in 2020, 2021. They were there for the longest time. Then they were transported to Kennedy Space Center, none other than the Kennedy Space Center. They were sent to Launch Complex 39A. I mean, I know all of this because I actually literally talked about that on a KC flyover. They were sent to 39A. They stayed there for I don't know how long, but many, many months. And then I think it was late last year, early this year, that they were sent to Masseys. Like they were sent back to Starbase, especially to Masseys, those two tanks in particular. And, you know, even when they were at Sanchez, we knew that they were going to be for methane. But yeah, we never saw it. You know, we never saw those tanks being installed at the launch site. They were just being stored at Sanchez. Again, the trip was Sanchez, stayed there for like a year or so. They went to the Kennedy Space Center, to 39A. They stayed there for another year or so. And then they returned to Starbase, but instead of going to Sanchez, they went here to Masseys to be used for the tank farm.
And I'm calling it. I'm feeling confident. This is methane load. That's usually the biggest reason why we see a huge difference in venting on a tank farm site, because loading means you have a lot of propellant and flow that increases venting, and this is venting from the methane side of the tank farm right now that started aggressively shortly after the locks. I wonder if this really just means this right now is like them transitioning into methane load. So, I just feel confident right now saying that. Maybe I'm completely wrong here, and my gut feeling is betraying me. But the one thing is, if this is some sort of engine testing, we probably won't see a methane frost ring if we are unlucky, because they will severely underload it usually, because they don't want to make sure they want to make sure that they are not having too much methane in a tank while testing something. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm looking at the methane tank here. If we see like indication of frost,
and that's one of the things, is that they really try and limit the amount of methane that they load into these, right? We'll see them fully loaded up with liquid oxygen, but they're a little more hesitant on the methane.
Yeah. I mean, liquid oxygen is one thing, but if you have a huge amount of liquid oxygen next to a huge amount of methane, that's a kind of, how do I say this, explosive combination. It basically determines the risk of the, like, to put it in a bit more serious terms, the amount of methane you load kind of determines the amount of risk you have in a test. If there's a low amount of methane, the explosion risk is fairly low. Like, there's the potential explosion radius. If you have a full booster and chip loaded, that's a huge amount of potential terajoule of power that you can release. And that means the explosion radius that you need to clear and make sure you're making sure that nobody's there is higher. That's why on a wet dress rehearsal, we have a full evacuation of the village, because it's a full propellant load, which means they don't want any people near it.
Yeah, kind of a safety risk there. So, yeah, minimizing the amount of boom is usually a good thing. I want to thank a couple more people here. Sean, getting a bunch of items from the store, saying thank you for all that you do. I hope I can somehow get my hands on the third patch to complete the set. Well, hopefully you know a good, someone who owns one maybe that's willing to share one with you. Because unfortunately they are completely out. But still appreciate the support and all the items that you are getting from the shop. Joseph Zimmerman, thank you for becoming a launch director member. Wow, one of the higher levels of support that we have here at NSF. We will definitely see your name now at the end of NSF Live and Flame Trench, so keep an eye out for that. And thank you for that generous amount of support there with membership. Gary Swift thanking Lainey Lena as well with a $20 super chat, so thank you to Gary. And Passett, thank you for becoming a Pad Rat member. All right. Let's see here. UK Hudson asking, considering last time we saw a ship out here, we had ship 31, saying, do we have any update on what's happening following the little spark, I guess I'll put it as, on ship 31?
No, they rolled back ship 31. They're since then expecting it, but Alex, like, I don't think we have any update or any indication what's the situation on ship 31 besides that it experienced a non-optimal scenario.
Yeah, we don't have any idea what is going on with it other than it's being worked at the high bay, right? So we'll see what they do with it, but we really have not seen anything else.
I'm staring at this methane tank.
Yeah, sorry, keeping a close eye on the tanks there and the venting that's going on. Those tanks on the ground there are quite venty at the moment.
That's, by the way, that's an interesting question. So if they go for a static fire, big if, how long do you think will they fire now with a flame trench in place and like a proper setup? Will we see like the usual 2-3 seconds? Will we see like, I don't know, like 10?
I would think it would still be a quick one, that they would go with the kind of duration that they're used to. It's a new flame trench, so kind of seeing how it works, how it holds up before they go anything beyond that would be my guess. Also kind of just keep their testing regime in what they know for the moment. So I think in the early days of this, it's going to be what we're used to seeing, and then they'll start experimenting potentially with longer engine burns on there.
So I've seen in chat some, talking about how ship 31 had that issue. So obviously they're not going to be doing anything with this ship other than what we're seeing. I should say ship 31 was not being tested at the same location or at the same stand. This is a complete different location at Masseys. I mean, it kind of uses some similar resources, but it's a different vehicle. It's a different pad. This is a facility that tests multiple things. You can see there on the right-hand side, next to ship 26, another monstrosity that is B14.1. I don't even know why they bothered putting a name to it. It's just some weird thing there. It's essentially a booster test tank that we think it's going to be essentially being used for testing the structural strength of the little knobs that they have at the top to be able to catch boosters. It doesn't have anything related with version 2 or anything like it. It's just essentially just probably to test all of the stuff related with catching and the structural strength and everything. They have another test stand there that they're building that looks to be for structural testing, and so that is essentially we think it's going to happen. So they have structural testing, they have cryoproof testing, and now they also have a static fire test stand as well, where ship 26 is right now located, but it doesn't have anything to do with ship 31 at all.
So Michael,
I think I'm starting to imagine things, but I thought I just saw discoloration on a methane tank.
Yeah.
Ooh.
In terms of loading, right now they're loading about pretty much what we've seen before on the overall pad. It's usually about 3 rings or so of liquid oxygen that they load. Yeah.
Is the speed similar? Did you already like? Did you see that?
I will not be able to tell though, because I don't have the
I
actual
know.
numbers for
I'm-
the speed. I do have the number like when the test happens. Another thing that I'm curious about, I think this is the problem with the problem with Ship 26 is that you don't know if you're looking at the front, you're looking at the back, or you're looking even at to one of the sides. I do wonder if there's going to be engine chill as well, and if we're going to see it happening. That's another thing here that I'm trying to look for.
I wonder if we will see the water once they spool up the flame, like the flame trench. Like,
well, if it's
once
in the bucket, that's probably going to be down, right? So we'll probably not see anything. I
But it would
imagine
be
that all we're gonna
spraying,
see-
right?
No, because
So-
it's like down. I will not expect, at the very least, I personally don't expect anything to pop up other than once those engines ignite. If they actually ignite again, we're assuming that since they're loading methane, they're probably doing any sort of engine testing. Maybe it's a spin prime for all we know.
Yeah.
But
Which would be
once-
hard to spot.
Yeah, I do expect like the vapors. If they fire the engines, those vapors will come out from the flame trench and will be spot.
Yeah.
Hang on.
They cannot.
Where's the-
They cannot hide. They cannot hide a static fire. There's no way they can hide a static fire. That's They can hide a spin prime. I think honestly, if they spin prime on this, we wouldn't know, because it would just be like it's sometimes hard to tell on the suborbital stand, and there we can see below the ship. I think with this one, spin prime's gonna be out. Pre-burner would be easy because there's a giant flame going up the vehicle. That's kind of a giveaway. And I mean, if it's a static fire, there's no way you can hide a static fire. Like, I think there's no place ever that you can hide a static fire of Raptor engines.
Of Raptor, yeah. Otherwise, I was going to say China.
To be fair, they sometimes try to hide that their engines are exploding, and then you have like Harry Stranger tasking a satellite and finding that their engine test stand exploded, which is still kind of funny.
Yes, an Australian working for a company that has founded by a Brit with a Spaniard, a German, and an American on the stream talking about seeing engines exploding in China.
Yeah, it's the beginning of a very cheap and very slow joke. It's like it's like an Australian, a British person, a Spaniard, a German, a few Americans go into a bar
and order carbonated drinks. Anyway,
don't.
Here's a good question from Rory saying, how do we know it's methane?
The tanks on the left side that are heavily venting are methane tanks. So, and since they are heavily venting, the indication is close that this is methane.
I guess that's fair then. Let's see here. Gareth pointing out, can't believe I'm watching Sawyer on a dedicated Ship 26 live stream. Something is wrong with the Matrix. Keep in mind, this was never originally intended to be a dedicated Ship 26 stream. As you can see in the top left, this was originally... Top left, there we go. This was originally a countdown to launch. So that clock, again, a reminder, in the top left is counting down to the launch of Starship Flight 4 and the full stack. That is in 62 hours and 40 minutes from now is when that window opens. It is not counting down to the launch of Ship 26 or any potential end of testing with Ship 26 that you see in front of you on the screen. It is totally unrelated to said clock, other than they're all at Starbase.
We were all baited in this giant, probably a scheme from Kevin Michael Reed, where he says, yeah, we're gonna do an episode of the Flame Trench, don't worry, and then probably his, I don't know, Ship 26 knowledge kicked in his, like, fan club, and he knew as soon as we sit here, they would spool that up, and, oh, now we are doing a Ship 26 stream. That's probably the real story. That's happening.
Also knew that I was going to have a snack right after the stream ended, and yeah, so hungry. But anyway, I do want to thank people again while we have a moment. Jason, Edney, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Matt, getting an item from the store, saying thanks for the great coverage. And the support continues to come in with the generosity. Anders Carlson upgrading to Launch Director. Again, one of the highest levels of membership that we have. And Russell Snodgrass, a name that we see quite often with the $100 super chat saying, oh, this is going to hurt to say, woohoo, yay, Ship 26, the hardest working ship in space. Only for a super chat like this would I actually read that.
It's not in space, and no.
Yeah, it's definitely not in space.
I'm really thankful for the support, Russell, but it's not in space. I'm sorry.
Doing all the dirty work
Forgive
so
me.
the pretty ships can keep their flaps clean. Thanks, Alex, Adrian, and Sawyer, for all the insightful yapping. Thank you again for the support. Yeah, it's still on the ground. It's not in space. It will never be in space. And that's how it should be. But thank you for the generous support. We really do appreciate that.
Disclaimer, because I saw some people, this whole thing about us disliking Ship 26 is just a joke, kind of inside the team, kind of outside, where we just like joke around, and like some people like it, some don't. Like, this is not serious. We don't actually hate a piece of hardware. Just to be clear here, we don't have like a hate. I even have a framed picture of Ship 26 over there.
That says a lot right there. Yeah, no, it's meant mostly jokingly. So, I mean, there's always a little bit of truth to it, but never actually hate to it. Just, we like seeing the flaps and seeing ships fly. So, it's fun to kind of have a little, like a younger brother to make fun of in a way.
Oh, vent.
There we go. Is that what you were pointing at, Alex?
I think you saw the same vent as me, right,
Yeah.
Alex?
That's usually the point. The pointing.
Yeah, I'm looking at other stuff. You've seen that, you know. I'm sorry for not looking straight at the camera. I'm here with my iPad right now, looking at other things and trying to see what else might be going on in terms of where we are on the timeline. Yeah, on the countdown.
Mr. Spreadsheet, yes.
No, I actually don't have a spreadsheet for this. I haven't even prepared anything. But it's been maybe about 5 minutes since I've seen, like, I haven't seen that liquid oxygen level grow up for the last 5 minutes, which will indicate, in theory, that we have completed loading of the liquid oxygen tank, perhaps. So, usually testing takes place just a few minutes after that.
And in terms of the methane load, though,
Well, that's since there's no frost line right now, because they only load the transfer tube and the bulkhead. We don't really know if there's really anything like that.
yeah, is that something we'd be able to tell?
I still think that something is at least going on in the methane tank farm, because the left tanks are completely going crazy still. But as soon as that dies down, I would be very curious if we are getting close. Yeah, Ryan also saying the vent right below the ship are the log subcoolers, and the vent to the left are the methane subcoolers, which kind of lines up with what we have been
Methane tanks,
observing.
of course, methane subcoolers, like that's...
Yeah. That's so. It seems they're still going. Like, the methane subcoolers to me look like that's not an inactive subcooler.
Oh, that's for sure.
That's very much that's
Yeah.
an active subcooler.
Yeah, maybe our indication will just be that subcooler, that venting just will stop, or at least, be weakened when they get to the end of whatever, methane load they are targeting for. So yeah,
Yep.
That's essentially where we are right now. We're sort of hoping to see that end of whatever propellant load. Oh, I think that is one of the side vents.
Oh, that's the in front, right?
Yeah, that would be in front, because I think this side that we're looking at is like the back side, the
The
windward
TPS
side.
side.
Yeah, and usually towards the end there's like this. Obviously, ship
Oh,
26
the
doesn't have-
methane vent. The methane vent is dying down, so they are
Yeah.
probably wrapping up methane load.
There we go.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see where they are. Again, looking at
Yeah, it's
potential
definitely slowing
indications. Obviously, the GSC is different, but the vehicle is the same. And, since the vehicle is the same, there are vehicle-specific indicators that we tend to see for a test. I just cannot see whether the engine chill pipe is frosty. I'm guessing it is if they are already completed with the propellant load. I'm trying to. We've seen that vent that we usually see or saw on this overall pad that was coming from the engine skirt. That normally happens towards the end. It's interesting that we don't see any frost on the header tank. That means it is not being loaded today. The good thing
going for like maybe they're going for like the most simple testing configuration.
Yeah, just main tanks. The liquid oxygen is loaded pretty much what we see on the suborbital pad, or we saw. I should use the past tense already. It's about 3.5 rings tall. That frost, it's pretty much just like we saw there. Yeah, the good thing, or well, it's good but also not good, of Ship 26 is that since it doesn't have tiles on the nose cone, if they had loaded something on the header tanks, we would see the frost, just like we saw it on SN 8, 9, 10, well 11. We did not see it. And then SN 15, of course, we also saw that too. But yeah, it seems like we're pretty much in the final few minutes here of whatever testing they're doing. Maybe we don't see anything, and they were just doing some propellant load test. That's okay, right? It's like the second test that they do here. But if we see something,
it could be targeting something maybe at the bottom of the hour.
Yeah, could be. I believe now. I think I'm hearing stuff, so I think we're having audio from the field. So if there's any engine test, we'll probably hear it.
So, but Sawyer is right. Like, there's always, if an even number is approaching to where you expect the T0 to happen with SpaceX, that's always fishy. And now, look at this. The tank farm is, like, dying. This vehicle is, like, in a state which we would expect around around a potential T0, where everything kind of dies down, and they are getting everything ready, and then at some point, it's, like, this might jump scare us. Whatever it is, like, this might just happen. We might just get not any more warnings.
For people asking about the methane tank, if there's a frost ring, there's not a frost ring. But that doesn't matter because we already saw the same thing on this orbital pad. They just load the common dome and the transfer tube. And by the way, Adrian, talking about the testing today, if they're going to be doing any engine test, we haven't seen that vent that comes out for when they do a single engine test. When they do that long depressed vent, they cool down the tanks and everything. They prepare everything for that single engine test. So if they do an engine test today, that will probably be 6 engines, which will be a first for Ship 26.
Yeah.
Because it already did a preburner with a single engine and a static fire with a single engine. So it will need all 6 engines.
There we go. And Tuvix, by the way, quickly asking, would an overpressure notice be given for a Massie static fire? Doesn't seem like it, right?
Probably not. It's farther away. Yeah, it's farther away from the village, so probably not.
Yeah, the overpressure notice is sent to residents at the Boca Chica village, because they are nearby. They're next to the launch site. But this is not. There's no. I mean, I think the nearest residents are the Ad Astra location that SpaceX has to the north. But yeah.
Yep. Again, we are approaching what would be 4:30 p.m. Central Time here in about 30 seconds. So there's a potential that we might see something here sooner than later. So that's why apologies if we get silent here.
Look at that. Now there's actually a header tank frost.
Oh, true. Yes, there's like a small frost ring.
Very small ring at the top. Yep.
So they're actually loading the header tank. So they're still loading, I guess.
Like very small, like very slowly.
Yeah, Yeah, and we do have multiple teams out there with different angles that we're working to try and get here for you. So whatever testing they have, we'll have multiple views of it, including this one from out on the water.
From a kayak, I heard.
Yes, Jack on a kayak.
Blah. Come on. Really?
Well, it is from Jack on the water. That is confirmed. But yeah.
Just made the meme true.
Yes, the question is the kilt or not is yet to be confirmed.
Jay saying in a kilt per sources. So...
Also, that angle, also a very good way of showing that that crane that appears to be very close from D's angle, which you're seeing here, is not as close as it appears. So it would be enough out of the way if they do go ahead with a static fire.
Yeah, you can see it clearly on kayak cam.
Who needs kite cam when you have kayak cam? There you go.
That's the name now. There it is, kayak cam.
Yeah. Also, there's a great indication of just how far away that crane actually is. So no risk to safety there.
So now we're just waiting to see what happens. If nothing happens, I guess in the next 30 minutes, we call it a day. or what do we do? Because maybe they're not doing
You're
anything
waiting for
with the
frost
engines,
ring
right?
to dip. I think we are waiting for frost ring to melt.
Yeah, or like some kind of depress vent where it's like, okay, they're done.
The fact that we now have that header ring, though, that happened pretty quickly.
Yeah, so they're doing header tank load now, I guess. Maybe when we were seeing the methane loading before, it was for the methane header as well, because they probably also load the methane header tank.
Right, and that was, we started really to see that ring right around what would have been about 4:30. So just a couple minutes ago.
Yeah.
I'm always getting nervous when the ticker is pulled. That's like, oh, ticker's pulled? Oh.
Well, again, just based off of all the indicators, it appears that they would be close to whatever testing they end up doing here with Ship 26, with what appears to be liquid oxygen and methane loaded in the vehicle.
Yeah, it's so weird to see the return of that header tank frost. I mean, technically, when there's TPS, thermal protection system, you can kind of see like a little small piece of frost, like right at the bottom of the TPS around the nose cone, but it's not the same.
Would this ship still have this upstream vent, Alex, where we can basically see like almost like if wind was coming from the bottom of the... You remember that vent that we had on some ships where it... Okay, somebody's honking. Where the vent was like almost going
Honk
straight
if you
up.
want a static fire.
Honk
Yeah, like
if you want
someone
26.
I bet someone has like a sign saying something like that. Honk if you want static fire.
Yeah,
People are
honk
honking.
honk for 26. This is golden. Actually, it's quite metal and not gold.
Boo. Anyway.
Sorry, I'm hanging out too much around you apparently recently.
Yes, you are. Let's see.
But
Again,
it doesn't
continue to
appear
launch.
to be like they're in any like deep tank operation source, so it just seems very static.
Seems
But
like
not
it's
fire.
holding as is, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
static, no fire.
but not fire.
Bird.
See, the problem with the venting that you mentioned before, Adrian, is that happens on the leeward side, and I believe the side we're seeing here is the windward side, the side that will have heat shield tiles,
Yes.
which, to be fair, it's kind of a good thing that Ship 26 is the first one to be here, because we will not see frost if this were a ship with the heat shield tiles.
By the way, for the people asking if Jack is allowed to be out there, yes, he is. We make sure that we follow all of the laws and regulations and all the NOTAMs and NOTMARs and everything related to this when we are out covering launches.
Yeah. Also, we are not risking Jack by putting him inside of a blast danger zone. That's not what we do.
I mean, it's Jack.
Yeah, like he might decide to do that himself.
Okay.
Some who knows, but we wouldn't do it.
No. So again, it seems like the venting is really quieted down now on both the subcoolers.
Yeah. We are essentially 35 minutes past the hour. it seems like the header tank load might have stopped already by now, because I don't see that frost line growing. So that's essentially it, probably. And I
Now we
don't know
wait.
what else. Yeah, it's just essentially a waiting game.
Right, so the question is, will it depress? Will they detank? Will they go for a spin prime, a static fire? All of these are still unknown
Yeah.
at this point.
Basically, the next thing we will see is probably either some sort of engine testing or depress. That's the two things that are likely to be in playing field for. And the question now is, which of the two we will see?
Exactly. We can pretty much narrow it down 50-50. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ship 26, the stage is yours. Do you mind showing us what's planned for today?
Well, Ship 26 right now is being Ship 26. It's being meh. So we'll see what it decides to end up doing here.
Yeah, like, thanks, Ship 26, once again.
I know Kevin, a bunch of people very happy that Ship 26 is getting the love and attention here. Again, we see the liquid oxygen there. We can see the header tank there. We saw the methane subcoolers going crazy before. We're watching. You can hear it's quite a windy day out there, but we do have field audio. They do go ahead and actually fire up the engines. They have not used this stand at Masseys yet for a static fire, correct?
That's correct. Or a spin prime, or a pre-burner. Like, any engine testing was so far not conducted here. To be fair, they could have sneaked in a spin prime without us noticing, but I'm at least sure on pre-burner or static fire.
And this would be the first use of a flame trench there.
Yeah, if they spool up the flame trench today, that would be the first use. Which
Some
might be the
considerate
main
of
goal.
them to not do this on a Friday.
Yeah. Like, imagine the flame trench covering a flame trench.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for originally.
Like, that would be perfect.
Yep.
I will send consideration for future planning to them.
Fridays, 5 p.m. Eastern. It's just as unhinged as you'd think.
And we are, like, it's not depressing, it's not detanking, it's just standing there. Menacingly.
You beat me to it. Good reference.
It's been now about 45 minutes since we've had the first sign of frost ring, by the way.
So worst case, it's like another 25?
I guess. Yeah.
Aw, no.
Have it.
Remove that!
No.
You
Can
can
you
tell
imagine
Kevin
if
is
now-
operating for at the moment.
Hey, can you guess? Yeah. Hey, can you guess who's operating the stream right now? I can't.
Oh, Jay, don't tell me that was you.
Oh, Jay did it. Jay.
I thought you were cool, Jay. Okay, it was
Oh, no.
Kevin that
Kevin
took that up.
took over. Yeah, so Kevin, basically Jay's operating, but Kevin set him up here.
Is it potential that we could be seeing this in a sort of simulated T-minus 40-second hold?
I mean, totally possible. The T-minus 40-second hold has become a staple of Starship operations, kinda. So yeah, could always possible.
I don't see why they would have a need for that at this point. I mean, I guess technically if it is a countdown to any kind of testing, there is a sort of T-minus clock that we don't really get to know publicly.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is we never know, like, what's the exact design goals. For what all we know, they could already perform right now, like, flame trench testing. And we just can't see it. And they are verifying that works before they do anything else.
That is true. Yeah, it's from our view here, Ship 26 appears quite elevated almost, because it does have that flame trench underneath that's tricky to see from most angles because of all the bushes and shrubs and whatnot. And that includes from Kayak Cam as well.
Yeah. So shoutouts to Kayak Cam.
Which is our Jack Buyer out on the water, and DY's on the views that you're seeing currently. Just want to make sure they get
stable.
shoutouts.
Very chill. Sean, I think, is also in the field there. Like we have like 3 or 4 people right now there observing Ship 26.
Along with all of us here continuing to watch it.
Yeah. You thought this would be a 1-hour stream where we just quickly talk about the launch this week? Nah. We'll make it a 3-hour show.
That's what my stomach was hoping, I'll just say that.
Yeah, I'm also looking forward to food.
Continuing to watch Ship 26 at Masseys. And again, a reminder, the countdown at the top left is to the Flight 4 full test, not to any testing today for Ship 26. Because, as you mentioned, this was originally a countdown to launch show, which is our 1-hour kind of preview leading up to the launch of a Starship flight test. When Masseys decided to get active and Ship 26 decided to get frosty. So that is why we have transitioned over here to testing coverage at Masseys.
Besides,
Yeah, we
waiting
wouldn't-
62 hours here for Ship 26 to launch.
We wouldn't do a 62-hour pre-show for Ship 26.
I mean, Kevin would, but he'd be on his own.
Yeah, totally.
Those one. Oh!
Oh!
Oh! Static fire! Whoa!
There you go.
That was the coolest thing Ship 26 has ever done.
I agree. That looked like a really good static fire there.
Yeah, looks like the Masseys ship test stand is officially operational.
Especially with that giant smoke plume, that seems like the flame trench doing its job.
Yeah, I bet there's replays on the way.
I'm sure there are. Looks like that was a full 6-engine static fire too.
Yeah, I think I saw 2 ignition waves, like we
Right.
usually see on a six engine static. It's a new stand, new views, but I think I saw 2 ignition waves.
Right,
Like
that would
two
be the
separate
And that's the
kind of.
depress vent, as you can see there.
Yep. But yeah, that would be the sea levels followed by the RVACs, right? For the 2 different ones.
Yep. I think I feel very confident this was 3-3,
It was
like
also,
we usually see.
for those keeping track, it was about 50 minutes between the first signs of cryo, of frost on the vehicle, to the test happening.
Yeah, so somewhere in between the suborbital stand and the orbital stand.
Yeah, about 20 minutes faster, yeah.
Nice.
There we go.
That looked cool.
It really did. You could almost see some of the flames that looked like coming up the right side of the vehicle there as it was firing too, in addition to
Yeah.
the giant smoke tower.
I was first not realizing it's static fight. I just saw like an orange light below it, and I was like, huh? And then I realized the plume next to it, and I was like, oh, that's what's happening.
Yeah, so someone put it, Coffee Master put in chat, Ship 26, slightly less worse ship.
Yeah, like, it definitely upgraded. Right there. Big upgrade.
I will give it that, Kevin.
To be a little bit more precise, it was 49 minutes. I'm trying to get it down.
I love how Alex is like live improving accuracy right now.
Yeah.
You can see how the Alex bot is working.
But I'm not doing a spreadsheet. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I'm fine.
I mean, I
just
did
knowing
for-
that that is 49 minutes from frost to test.
And I think we
For the-
can
for the
confirm
early
Jack is
test,
in
I
one piece,
didn't-
by the way.
Oh yeah, but can we confirm that like Jack's good, Kayakem's good?
There we go.
Yep.
Yep. Jack is still
It's still
alive.
floating.
Yeah, you can see it.
Beautiful views, I believe, of the Rio Grande. I could be very wrong, but. And then views of Ship 26, of course.
Chris Bergen in the back channel being disappointed that, you know, it survived the test.
You're not alone. It's okay, but at least it proves
Yeah, we
ground equipment.
all hope for it, Chris.
By the
We
way,
all hope for it, Chris.
the two ignitions, you can also see it on the vapor from the flame trench. You can see an
because
initial,
it's like
yeah, you can see an initial push. We're gonna throw all the replays now on screen, but yeah, you can see the initial push of the first ignition, and then the second push from the second ignition. You could see, you know, if you watch a Falcon Heavy static fire test, especially the early ones where they staggered the ignitions, you could see that as well on the flame trench that they have at 39A, because you see first like a plume, a first sort of ignition, right? And then there's another wave coming up from the flame trench of the other set of ignitions when they do that.
And do want to point out from Jack saying thanks to Rocket Ranch for providing the boat part of Boat Cam. Want to make sure we acknowledge them as well. Rocket Ranch, fantastic people over there.
yeah, thank you so much. That's amazing. Weird though that they say boat and not kayak.
Yeah, seriously.
That's
And not Kilt Cam either. Kevin.
no. Go away.
If you were to put Jack's thing on screen, fine. Rocket Ranch. I know we have a command for them in chat. That's fine. That is evil.
I'm also seeing people saying, "Oh, Ship 26 is the first one to static fire at both locations." It may not be the only one. Just saying.
But it is true.
Oh yeah,
They still have the time to static fire Ship 30 here at Masseys. Ship 30
True.
static fire at Super Bowl Pad B was the last vehicle to static fire there, and it will be a lot better because Ship 30 will actually fly. So, just saying.
It's true. Oh wow, it's again, we are working on pulling the replays right now. Promise you. So keep an eye out for those. We're working on it. I'm sure we're going to be analyzing them super intensely as soon as we get them in here.
Yep, absolutely.
All the people say, now we can finally scrap Ship 26. I think it's safe to do that now, right?
It was safe to do that before this. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the replays here. I really want to see this vapor.
It looks like the test takes about 5 minutes. Oh, 5 minutes, 5 seconds.
Oh gosh, it's already been updated at Merch Pine.
Historic first ship to static fire at Masseys and Pad B.
That eye roll, Alex, was perfect.
That was like Alex couldn't have said anything that made it more disrespectful.
The only reason I'm glad we went back to the cameras there when we did.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that eye roll, peak.
Yeah, again, for those just joining, Ship 26 performing what appeared to be a 6-engine static fire at the relatively new stand out there at Masseys. It looks like the header tank, by the way, definitely see that line going down now, finally.
Yep.
And
The
we-
tanks are getting emptied.
Well, you know, I'm happy because, with Ship 26 already completing this static fire, it means that we can scrap it.
Yeah.
There you go.
SpaceX, get rid of it, please. Thanks.
Yeah, they took down the Gateway to Mars sign, but are still somehow using Ship 26. Shouldn't it be the other way around?
But honestly, it's all memes aside, it's kind of cool that they are able to just like turn what initially was supposed to be a normal ship into like this kind of Pathfinder vehicle and just perform a bunch of things on it. From all we know, they definitely tested some other things on Ship 26. It also was part of the testing and demonstration of this whole single engine burn. It was now part of the Pathfinder to the Masseys test site. Honestly, it's doing kind of good.
Someone said in chat just right now, it's a record because it didn't lose any tiles during a static fire. It's like,
you're correct.
I mean, there's the caveat of it having to actually have tiles, but yes.
it didn't do this though, and it will not do that. So, just saying.
Yeah, Kevin is now happy hearing that. I see Kevin being very excited that it actually didn't lose any tiles.
I mean, that's on a technicality, all right?
But yeah, stand by with us here from replays. They're still coming. We are getting them ready, and as soon as we have them, we will we'll start to look at the replays, yeah, see what we can see.
I have some of the best people to help analyze it above and below me at the moment, so.
Thank you for having us, Sawyer.
As if this was my stream. Yes, I welcomed you on. No, thank you all.
Well, welcome to Sawyer Rosenstein, the show.
Sawyer Spaceflight, yeah.
People are asking for a patch for 26. It's like, it doesn't make sense.
No. We are not doing a Ship 26 patch.
I mean, you can make one that is just like a trash can or something, and
yeah, it's like a trash can firing at Masseys. It's like, yay.
yeah.
I think we hear some venting.
I was trying to see if that was venting or if that was road noise.
Yeah, hear it again.
Yeah.
I think a person as well.
Well, yeah, there were multiple people out there watching alongside where our cameras were.
Ah, there we go.
Right. Anyway, continuing along here, I do want to thank some people here who gave their support while all of this Ship 26 chaos was going on. Robert, getting a couple items from the shop, saying, get them while they're hot. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Robert. Getting Flight 1 patch.
The one for Flight 4 is actually hot because you can see the re-entry of the ship.
You mean that
Just
patch?
saying.
Yes.
Yeah. I will take mine, but it's like behind the magic screen, I guess. The one that puts Ship 28 behind me. So yeah, I will have to go around and everything. I'm not going to do that right now. But yeah, I have
Also,
my patches. I got them today. They look amazing.
Also, I'd rather be flying an X-Wing, saying, do they usually static fire from a header tank and a main tank, as opposed to both main tanks?
So we don't know exactly from which tanks they're always firing. That's kind of... But just because they are loading the tanks doesn't mean they're firing from them. This is when they load like this. I would feel fairly safe to say this test was most likely conducted from the main tanks, and they are probably loading the header tanks as part of their procedure. They are not loading them to fire from them.
Yeah, and also, when they did the engine test with Ship 29, where they said, we're firing from the header tanks, the main tanks were loaded, right? Like, it was visible that they were loaded, and they were using the header tanks for that test. So just because we see both being loaded doesn't mean that, they're using both, or they're using one and the other, whatever, right? Like, they just loaded because that's their procedure.
Exactly, and we'll be able to see it a little better too once we get those replays, which I promise are in work, so stay tuned.
Oh lord! Someone actually reminded me. Ship 26 is the only starship to have had hardware in space.
Well, here's one that
They're
might
not wrong, but
be a caveat for it here. Mr. Space Repair is saying that technically Sparky was the first to static fire in Masseys.
Wait, which reference I'm missing here
Oh,
with
Lord.
the whole ship 26 being having hardware in
Ship
space?
31 technically had a
No.
fire while it was static.
Adrian is asking about what I said about Ship 26 hardware being in space.
Oh, go ahead,
It's-
sorry.
It's this vehicle's fault. It wore Ship 26 mid-lock section.
Oh,
So Ship 28 had Ship 26 mid-lock section. They created just a mid-lock section for the current Ship 26, and they gave Ship 26's mid-lock section to Ship 28. So yeah, there's a little bit of Ship 26 in this picture, I guess. I continue, Sawyer.
Josh with the $5 tip at tips.NASASpaceflight.com saying, for my order of the Ship 26 patch. Appreciate it, but don't expect it anytime soon or ever. And then AZ Space Geek, good point. Ship 26 lost tiles in production. So it did lose tiles. In fact, it lost all of its tiles.
yeah, it's the first ship to lose all of its tiles.
Boom, there you go.
Yeah, you get it's simple actually, Ship 26 fans. You get a patch of Ship 26 when it launches, because we do launch patches.
Good point. Which, yeah, coming to a launch pad never near you. So much dislike for it. I know. I see the love in chat. It's almost like we need a poll for if people's opinions have changed on Ship 26 after the static fire. I do wonder. Let's see. Continuing to work on getting those replays pulled so that we can do our analysis on it. Our NSF magic. Exclamation point enhance, right? Oh, let's see here. Someone's saying when they send Ship 26 up for some kind of test, you're all going to feel pretty silly.
I feel fairly safe. I have to say, I feel fairly safe.
Also, it seems like Jonathan's saying, did they make an exclusion zone for the river? How close was Jack? Jack seemed pretty close. It doesn't seem like there was that crazy of an exclusion zone, which is part of the move to Masseys in general as well. Allow them to do that testing at Masseys without closing all of Highway 4 and all the area nearby, right?
I think that it looked like they hold it at like a fairly safe space, but yeah, you can get on there.
Yeah. No, it was. It's nice to see, and again, the fact that we have a full stack out at the pad, and we're able to do a static fire on Ship 26 like this. It's taking so long for the replays that Jake has come to entertain everybody. Say hi, Jake.
Hey, Jake.
They say hi, buddy. There we go. Danger Cat. Looking at my Danger Van shirt. Oh,
Let's see.
good boy. Hopefully that distracts people in the meantime here, as we see people saying Ship 26 best ship.
I'd bring my pet here, but it's my brother is right now in my living room, so I can't do it.
Very funny.
I also don't have a cat yet.
Yes, Jake the Space Cat. Everyone loves Jake. Let's see what else we got. In the meantime, as we continue to wait for these polls, people saying that it should be displayed as a historic vehicle now.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the history of how SpaceX has treated historic vehicles in Boca Chica, I'm not sure if you want to get the historic vehicle treatment. Ask SN15.
Ask most vehicles with the exception of Hopper.
Yeah, like basically if your name is not Hopper, you're not staying. Or a few very weird boosters who are now in the rocket garden since forever. Oh, by the way, the light just turned off in my room because I have an automatic light off thing at midnight.
Yeah,
Whoops.
it just hit midnight right now. I had a notification pulling up on my watch as well.
As we hit 5 p.m. Central Time, by the way, in Starbase there, with the static
Yep.
fire happening around, it appeared, 4:40 Central Time. Continuing to work on getting those replays. Jake continuing to entertain here. Philip Whitehouse saying the big news is really that they now have a fully operational test stand. With a good question, did you expect it to be online so quick?
No, I thought it would take longer. I'm kind of surprised they already static fired this. But speaking of static fire,
Do we
I
have the
heard
replays? Yes, we do.
we have some replays.
All right, let's do it. Come on, Jakey.
So there we go.
This was from Dee's point of view.
Yep. There's ignition. And yeah.
Is that Jack?
By the way, you notice that little puff of flame that kind of came out the right side there. I don't know if you guys saw that too, or what that might be.
Oh, that was someone near D. Okay.
Right.
That was cool. Let's see it again.
Here's from
Now this is from
Oh.
Jack.
Kayak Cam.
Kayak cam. See what we see first. There it is.
Oh, there you go.
There was Jack.
That's Jack.
That was Jack. Woohoo!
Couldn't have said it better myself. This is from one of our remote cameras out there.
Yeah, the robot.
Yeah, there it is. Ignition. There you can see like this the second push in the plume.
Yeah.
That's the RVX spooling up. Basically, you have the first plume. The first plume is the 3 sea level engines probably igniting. And then you have the second push, which is probably the 3 RVACs igniting. You can see that in all kinds of different ways. You can sometimes also see that using even audio. We had pasts where we could see an audio spike.
Here's another look at it.
There's the first, and there's the second. It's like whoosh, and then it pushes through again. Kinda funny.
Very obvious though, which is kind of cool to see.
Yep.
More
And
replays.
that's more replays. We have a lot of cameras on this.
That's good.
The most cameras ever on
Yeah.
Ship 26.
Yeah. There's the first. There we go.
Looks pretty good.
Yeah, seems like 6 engines.
I mean, that seemed pretty clean from all those different angles.
Oh, let me word this the way. It's certainly an ignition of 2 phases of Raptor engines, which in optimal case had E3 engines. The problem is I can never verify if like they only ignited 2 sea level engines or 2 Raptor vacs, because we cannot just easily count them. It seems like there were 2 ignition sequences that could have ignited up to 6 engines, and yeah, there you go. That's
what we
the
wanna
wording
see,
I'm
though.
going for.
But
Yeah.
there's your proof that the Masseys test stand up and running now.
Works.
That is
Yep.
fantastic news. Also, Methane Man saying Jake likes Ship 26. I don't know. Don't be putting meows in his mouth. And Ethereal Swordman says they should fly Ship 26 to test a ship's SSTO capability. Then it'd be stuck in space and you'd never see it again. But it'd also be cool. I mean, this may be the coolest thing that Ship 26 ever does. I'm just saying.
Oh, for sure.
So, yeah. But shout out to our amazing team out there capturing all those views. D rolling out with the pack, and then Jack as well rolling out on the kayak, or on the boat at least, with the help of the Rocket Ranch people. So thank you to all of them out in the field for being able to provide us those views. And I think that wraps up this countdown to launch. This 1 hour show talking about the upcoming flight of Starship.
Well,
What a short episode. Like that was just like 1 hour. Like that was the shortest 1 hour in my life. No, yeah, that was kind of cool. Kind of cool. Like you get a, and I was worried that like were the show notes enough for an hour? Yes.
Yeah. Would we have enough to talk about for an hour? I think we did.
Yeah.
Adrian, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, and also thank you for being our amazing host for the last 3 hours and 6 minutes. Sorry.
Oh, shucks, you're too kind, but who's counting? Thanks as well for joining us, Alex. Thanks for hopping in and helping with the Ship 26 coverage.
It's always a pleasure.
And of course, shout out to the crew behind the scenes who are quickly alternating between all those different angles and making everyone be able to see Ship 26. So Jay Keegan, the main person pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, and of course, Kevin Michael Reed assisting out in the back channel there as well. I have been your host.
Carson.
Carson as well was helping out in the back,
yeah.
and I believe Gage also doing a little bit of help back there too. So
and we had Trevor on early as well.
yes. Thank you, everyone. Oh, Kevin, take that off the screen. You know what? Let's take it all off the screen. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you very soon again. Launch coming up soon.
And here we go.
We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Traveling up. Roger, with planet.
Echo down to nominal.
Flight downside speed off. Bring in SPD off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?